Good evening and welcome to Football Commentary Live. We're bringing you live commentary of Leicester City versus Manchester City in the Premier League today. I'm the alternative host Russ Vernon, and we're going to be joined in a few minutes by our commentators for today's game. Jack Cunningham is the lead commentator, and alongside him we have got Matt Iles ready for this encounter this afternoon. On the way then, before I do bring you the build-up to that game, I'll run you through the results from today's matches, starting with the Premier League. Chelsea 2, West Bromwich Albion 5, Leeds United 2, Sheffield United 1. Leicester City versus Manchester City is this game we're covering now at 5:30. Arsenal v Liverpool is at 8 o'clock kick-off. We're also going to be covering it here on Football Commentary Live. In the Scottish Cup, it finished Dumbarton 0, Aberdeen 1, Ayr United 0, Clyde 1, Borough Rangers 1, Stranraer 3 is the latest score. We are currently in extra time. Dundee 0, St Johnstone 1, Dundee United 2, Partick Thistle 1, East Fife versus Greenock Morton is in extra time. Currently is 1-1 there. 4-4 Athletic against Edinburgh City are also in extra time. Current score is 2-2. For Martin United 0, Motherwell 5. Fraserburgh 2, Montrose 4. Hamilton Academical 0, St Mirren 3. We're currently in extra time. Livingston 2, Wraith Rovers 1. And Stenhousemuir 0, Kilmarnock 4. Celtic v Falkirk is at 8 o'clock kick-off. Well, 7:30 kick-off this evening, and we'll bring you that later on the Arsenal-Liverpool programme later on this evening. In the Championship, Huddersfield 1, Brentford 1. In the Women's Super League, Reading 0, West Ham United 5. In League 2, Southend United 0, Carlisle United 2. Scottish Championship, Arbroath 2, Alloa Athletic 1. Dunfermline 0, Artemid Lothian 0. Scottish League 2, Annan Athletic 0, Elgin City 3. Cowdenbeath 0, Albion Rovers 1. Queen's Park 1, Stirling Albion 0. Some results from the Spanish La Liga. Granada 0, Villarreal 3, Real Madrid 2, Eibar 0. Later game at 5:30 sees Osasuna take on Getafe. I'll tell you how they're getting on at half-time and full-time of this game. We'll let you know the result of that one. In the Spanish Copa del Rey at 5:30 this evening, it's Athletic Bilbao versus Real Sociedad. In the Bundesliga, Mainz 0-5-1, Armin Bielefeld 1, Bayer Leverkusen 2, Schalke 1, Borussia Dortmund 1, Eintracht Frankfurt 2, Augsburg 2, Hoffenheim 1, VfL Wolfsburg 1, FC Cologne 0. RB Leipzig against Bayern Munich is at 5:30 kick-off. Borussia Mönchengladbach v SC Freiburg is at 7:30 kick-off. And just finally for now, in Italian Serie A, AC Milan 1, Sampdoria 1, Atalanta 3, Udinese 2, Benevento 2, Parma 2, Cagliari 0, Hellas Verona 2, Genoa 1, Fiorentina 1, Lazio 2, Spezia 1, Napoli 4, Crotone 3, Sassuolo 2, Roma 2, and the latest score is Torino 0, Juve 0. That's been played 9 minutes. We'll bring you up to date with that result. And Bologna versus AC Milan, Inter Milan should I say, 7:45 p.m. kick-off. And just a couple of games, 3 games in the French Ligue 1. Monaco beat Metz by 4-0. Paris Saint-Germain are currently losing 1-0 to Lille. That's in the 49th minute. And Lens versus Lyon is at 8 o'clock kick-off this evening. Now to bring your attention to today's game in the Premier League. And Leicester take on Manchester City is third against top in this match today. Chelsea remain fourth on 51 points, just 3 points above West Ham United, who can potentially go above them if they win their match this weekend. Leeds United are up to 10th after the win over relegation threatened Sheffield United leads into the 40-point mark now, 42 points, level on points with Arsenal, just 4 behind Liverpool and Everton, and just 6 behind Tottenham Hotspur, who sit in 6th place. Sheffield United are bottom, as I mentioned, on 20 points, and look on 14 points, should I say, in 20th position, looking like they're going to head to the relegation to the Championship. West Brom, fantastic win for them earlier on this afternoon away at Chelsea. They're up to 21 points and just 7 points off Newcastle, but West Brom have got a rather larger goal difference than Newcastle. They're just 5 points behind Fulham as well, going into the final few matches of the Premier League campaign. We're now going to bring in and look ahead to this game this evening as it's third against first in the division. And we're going to bring in our co-commentator first of all, Matt Iles. And good afternoon, Matt. And Leicester taking on Manchester City. Leicester third, going well, only one defeat in their last 5 matches, 3 wins and a draw. Man City, 1 defeat in their last 5 matches as well, but 4 wins in there. How do you feel this game is going to go, do you reckon? Because earlier on in the season, at the Etihad, Leicester, let's just say, thrashed Manchester City. Do you think it could be a similar performance today, or do you reckon Man City will have learned from that day?
Well, I think, first of all, good evening, Russ, and good evening to everyone listening. I think it'll be a very different Manchester City against Leicester today. I mean, obviously, that was just one of those, you just completely caught them by surprise, didn't they? And you've got to give Leicester a lot of credit for how they performed. But Manchester City, pretty much since then in the league, have been absolutely superb. They've hardly given anything away. They've looked strong in every area. So it's going to be a real task for Leicester to maintain what they did in that first fixture back in September. But as we know, Leicester are a real difficult side to play for anyone in this Premier League. So they've got a lot to do today to sort of keep doing the performance that they did. But I can't see them doing it to the same standards of what they did in the first fixture back in September.
Yes, and Man City have gone on a really good run since that day. Only lost 3 games in the entire campaign. One of them, as we've come out, is to Leicester. If Man City were to win here today, obviously it looks like they've already won the title by quite a long stretch, 20 points above 4th place Chelsea. But if they were to win today, do you reckon anyone can catch them in the table, or do you reckon it's already sewn up even before the ball's been kicked this afternoon?
I think it's been pretty much sewn up, to be honest, Russ. I think, they're 14 points clear. If they win tonight, they go 17. It's a lot for Man United to chase upon. So I think for me, it's just a case of when Manchester City win it and how quickly they want to win it for me.
Yes, and if I were to push you for a score prediction, Matt, what do you reckon the score is going to be come the final whistle this evening in this game?
I can imagine Leicester, causing Manchester City a few problems or two, but the way City are playing, the way they're relentless, the way they've got the quality on the pitch still, even though there's some good names on the bench, I think Man City are going to just scrape it 2-1, but I could really see it being a real good encounter that we got at the King Power tonight.
Yes, and the teams are out and we're almost ready for kick-off. I'm going to hand over to your match commentators. Matt Iles, you've just said from there, and a very good evening to our match commentator, Jack Cunningham.
Hello, Russ. Thank you. Good evening to everyone who's listening as well. Good evening to you, Matt, as well. And as you said, 2-1. I think that's a reasonable prediction for the game. Looking at the home form, Leicester have only sitting 7th place for home form this season. They've lost 6 matches at the King Power, and they've lost to Fulham and Leeds. Away is actually where they've done best. They are the top team in the league for their away form. Kelechi Iheanacho, though, has been on absolute fire recently at 7 goals in 4 games. He's just been awarded with a new contract. Do you think he's going to come back and hurt his old team?
Well, I mean, the scoring form he's in at the moment, Jack, I mean, it wouldn't surprise. I mean, everything he seems to get at the moment, he's putting in the back of the net. He got a hat-trick in the last Premier League game against Sheffield United. And, it really does feel like now Leicester fans are starting to see the best of the Nigerian Iheanacho. I mean, he came from Manchester City, sort of what we're talking now, 3.5 years ago. It kind of felt like maybe that it wasn't the right move for him. And obviously he's got his place in the team now with Vardy there as well, and it's really worked a treat. So I think Manchester City's defenders have got to be on red alert to keep him quiet tonight. And it wouldn't be a surprise if he was able to put the ball in the back of the net, no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess from Manchester City, before I run through the starting line's been full. I mean, Aguero announced this week he's leaving the club. I mean, what an absolutely incredible striker he's been. It's 181 Premier League goals. I feel privileged to have watched him for his entire career in the Premier League. Do you think he's almost sort of underrated by some? Because you don't, sometimes when people consider the best strikers to have ever graced the league, he sometimes isn't in that conversation. I think he's in the top three, to be honest, in my opinion. That might be just because I've grown up watching him. What is your view on Sergio Aguero?
I think you're absolutely spot on. I think a lot of people undervalue what Aguero's done, not just for Manchester City, but for the Premier League. I mean, he said 180 goals. That is an absolutely staggering amount, given, how long he's been in the division. And I mean, he's maintained that record year in, year out, apart from this year, of course, because he's had injuries. But he is somebody who has been a serious stalwart to the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, I may as well run through the starting lineup. So for the home side, it's one change from their 3-1 win over Manchester United. Sionchu is out because of COVID in the Turkey camp. So the full lineup for Leicester: in goal, Kasper Schmeichel. I'm assuming it's a back three of Wesley Fofana, Johnny Evans and Daniel Amartey. Right wing back looks like it's going to be Mark Albrighton, Yuri Tielemans, Wilfred Ndidi. Left wing back is going to be Timothy Castagna, and then in behind the front two of Kelechi Iheanacho and Jamie Vardy is Iosi Perez, and on the bench for Leicester is Danny Ward, Luke Thomas, Hamza Chowdhury, Napalis Mendy, Dennis Pratt. The return of James Maddison, so there's options on the bench for Leicester if they need them. Ricardo Pereira, Thanwa Tsuga-Chowan, apologies for the pronunciation, Vontae Daly-Campbell. And then for Manchester City, just ahead of their Champions League game, looks like Guardiola's rang the changes with 6 changes from their 2-0 win over Everton. And they are Edison, Kyle Walker, Aymeric Laporte, Ruben Diaz, Benjamin Mendy, Fernandinho, Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, Riyad Mahrez, Gabriel Jesus, and Sergio Aguero. So what do you make of the starting lineups for both sides?
Well, Leicester's a usual back three, isn't it? Which obviously really works well. I like the balance that there. I mean, you don't often see in football these days, any team in the top division play with 2 strikers, but it works with Iheanacho and Vardy. They provide so much pace and, deadly finishing. We know in Manchester City, they're going to play that formation, sort of the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. It's just a case of who sometimes plays. And he has rotated the team, thinking ahead to that Dortmund game on Tuesday.
And looks like we're about to get underway. It's going to be Iosi Perez to get us underway as Leicester look to extend that lead on the top 4. So it's ball played back and Tielemans clips it over in the direction of Albrighton, headed away by Mendy. And then this is Ndidi. And straight away, Leicester win a throw. Ndidi, what a player he is, to be fair. I mean, 24. He just seems like when he plays, Leicester very rarely lose. And when he was injured last season, they only won 1 game. So it shows how important he is to their side.
He is very influential, isn't he? And I mean, obviously, as you rightly say, he's 24. I mean, it's staggering to think he's such an accomplished player. He almost feels like he's well ahead of his years, doesn't he? So mature, so calm. And I think, you've got to give a lot of credit to Brendan Rodgers because he's got a good partner in Yuri Tielemans who, really alongside him does really well in that Leicester midfield. But yeah, he's a fantastic player in Ndidi, and you can't understate his value to the Foxes side.
No, definitely not. And there was Ndidi flicking it on. And this is Iosi Perez, who is a player who, since he's joined from Newcastle, it's probably not hit the heights that he did under his last season on Tyneside. But Brendan Rodgers was full of praise from recently, and he's been given the chance, even though James Maddison's back to fitness. So it's a big chance for Iosi Perez to really make a statement and get a goal or something like that, because he's only got 2 goals this season. This is Fernandinho slipping it through in the direction of Aguero. And here comes Kelechi Iheanacho. Cuts inside and he plays it into Perez now. Perez, I'm going to square up his man, tries to clip it through for Vardy. I mean, that would have been an absolutely incredible ball, but too much on it, and Edison comes up and sweeps it up.
Yeah, they win it well, don't they? Sort of right in the middle of the pitch, Les, and it comes to Iheanacho. He plays the right ball to Iosi Perez. He's sort of a crossroad, isn't he? Just sort of stands still, and he's just not really sure what to do. And it wasn't the best of balls intended for Jamie Vardy, but when Leicester get in that position, they've got to be quick, they've got to be decisive. And I just think Perez just took the sting out the attack a little bit there. And it was a really good run made by Vardy, but it was just a shame that it was a really poor ball into the Leicester number 9.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what you're always going to get from Jamie Vardy, isn't it? Those instinctive runs. And I think one thing with Perez at Newcastle is as well, his decision making was never always the best. He's clearly got the talent, but sometimes it doesn't translate. But under Rodgers, maybe that'll improve over time. This is Rodri trying to whip a ball in, headed away by Marty. Not far enough though, but indeed he just gets in there, just wanted it more than Mendy. And he finds Albrighton, and Albrighton fires it in the direction of Iheanacho. And Walker's missed it. And Iheanacho's now looking to take on Kyle Walker. And Walker, in the end, comes back. But already Leicester looking to release the ball very quickly whenever they get it.
Absolutely. They know that Manchester City are going to be streaming men forward whenever they get inside Leicester's half. So it's important that they win it back quickly and get it in Manchester City's half, in that time as well. Because obviously Man City will be scrambling players back. And obviously with the pace that Leicester have got on the break, your Vardy, your Iheanacho, if they play that ball through, Manchester City could be in a real spot of bother.
Well, De Bruyne there just taking out Vardy once again. He won the ball high up the field, Vardy, and you're not going to beat him in a foot race. De Bruyne came in, clattered the former England striker, and Leicester have a free kick. And already you have to say the Foxes made quite an intense start of this one.
They have made a very intense start, haven't they? I mean, Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho have been really pushing high on the Manchester City defence, which has got that very, very high line. They're doing exactly the same from this free kick here. But the Foxes, it's a very, very bright start from now. They'll be hoping now that the bright start they've made, they can make it come to true fruition here.
Albrighton always got very good delivery, does Mark Albrighton. Let's see what he can come up with here. He sends it into the box, just headed away powerfully by Ruben Diaz. Comes into Castagna, Perez is beating the ball by De Bruyne, and then Perez is all over the back of De Bruyne, but he's still going, and it's going to be brought back for a free kick.
Yeah, I think it was Perez that might have just clipped the heels of De Bruyne there, but indeed he was certainly getting alongside it as well. And it's obviously looking like, Leicester are trying to match up Manchester City in terms of them pressing, getting in their face. We've seen it with Vardy, closing down De Bruyne inside, Manchester City's own half. We saw it with Ndidi and Iosi Perez. So, Leicester just trying to match the, pretty much the Premier League champions, aren't they? For side, it seems, in the early stages.
This is Rodri now. He'd put in a different role. He sends the ball in the box for Fana there. And it comes out to Fernandinho, who rifles it into the net. Fernandinho was struck a blow after Leicester had started well. Fernandinho's just thumped one from a long way out. It looked like Schmeichel had covered, but it's gone in the corner. And it's 1-0 to City as it stands.
Well, it looks like there might be a bit of controversy here because I don't think the goal's going to stand, actually, Jack. But you've got to take your hat off to Fernandinho. What a strike it was from the Man City captain. And as I sort of was just debating whether or not the flag was raised, it was actually raised on that right-hand side. I think someone's actually come back from an offside position. I think it might have been Jesus, actually. But Fernandinho just hits this. It thinks it's Amos. It's actually Aguero who comes back from an offside position. And obviously, he is interfering with play there. So you do have to say, by the letter of the law, it is the right decision being made by the officials on this occasion.
It's a poor clearance by Fofana, actually. It's a good strike by Fernandinho, but Aguero is clearly in Schmeichel's eye line.
Yeah.
Which means that he can't get it. It is a good strike by Fernandinho, though. It's curling away and it ends up in the bottom corner. And I think that's the right decision. But after all Leicester's good work, it was nearly undone.
Well, yeah, exactly. They just didn't get out quick enough, did they? I mean, they almost just had their defence just sitting on that, 6-yard box. And you've got to look at the midfielders, Ndidi and Tielemans. They've got to be getting out to Fernandinho. And obviously, that's going to be an early warning sign. But luckily for them, of course, Aguero came back from an offside position. So they'll be hoping that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, definitely. Although they did concede first in the 5-2 win at the Etihad earlier this season. Riyad Mahrez scored the opener and then Leicester came back and were absolutely incredible that day. They had barely any possession from what I remember as well. And it was all about the intense pressing and winning the ball high up the field. And already it looks like they're kind of trying to replicate that. I'm expecting City to dominate the ball, and that seems to be how it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite similar to when Leicester played Manchester United in the FA Cup 5th round, the last game before the international break. They let Man United have the ball. Of course, it worked wonders that day because they pressed United high, got right in their face and put the squeeze on. And they're doing exactly the same here for Man City, as you rightly alluded to, Jack.
This is De Bruyne, finds Fernandinho, playing into Rodri. This is now Mendy, who's looking to take on Albrighton. Instead, he plays it back to Rodri. Rodri clips one towards Riyad Mahrez, the former Leicester man. Can he cause some more pain to his former team. Mahrez plays it back to De Bruyne. De Bruyne sends the ball in. Johnny Evans comfortably heads that away. And it's picked up by Yuri Tielemans, who's just shields it out of play. Quite intelligent play by the Belgian.
Yeah, he did very, very well there, didn't he? Yuri Tielemans. You thought Mahrez was going to get that under control, but he just got his body in front of him and just made sure that Mahrez couldn't get in front of him or get a toe to it to keep it in play. That was smart play by the Belgian midfielder.
So it's now Kasper Schmeichel clips it into Castagna, and Castagna heads it back to Fofana. Back into the extremely experienced Johnny Evans, who was signed for £3.6 million from West Bromwich Albion when the Baggies were relegated. I mean, what an incredible bargain that's been, because he's been crucial to Leicester's rise under Brendan Rodgers.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the heartbeat of that back three that they play, and it works so well, doesn't it? I mean, so much experience, and to pick him up for that price, which these days is so unheard of in the Premier League with all this big money that's being spent. You've got to take your hat off once again to the Leicester recruitment team, who over the last few years have, really excelled in that department, haven't they? I mean, Fofana alongside him has been an absolutely sensational bit of business from Saint Etienne, and Johnny Evans signing for that price tag, especially. As you rightly alluded to, is absolutely superb business.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester's recruitment has been incredible. This is Perez, another one who's been recruited recently. Tries to chop inside Fernandinho, but the Brazilian reads it, and City come away with the ball. Finds Mahrez. He's not getting any further than Wilfred Ndidi, though. Oh, well, it's being given as a free kick against Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah, he had a look at it, didn't he, for a while, Anthony Taylor? He wasn't really sure at first whether it was a foul or not. Well, he certainly does catch him, doesn't he?
He's won the ball, but unfortunately,
it's
that's not enough anymore, is it?
No, it's not. And I mean, obviously, it's in this day and age, you get the follow through and you catch the player on the knee or quite high on his leg. The referee's always going to give a free kick there. Well,
Thiago Silva got sent off for that earlier on today with a follow-through tackle for a second yellow card. So, you don't get any leeway with them anymore. This is Walker into Mahrez, who's instantly closed down by Castagna. Flicks it around the corner to De Bruyne. Now Mahrez again. Can he get one-on-one and take on Castagna? But straight away, Perez is back to help out his teammate. Mahrez around the corner. City can't get anything going so far. And away come the Foxes through Castagna. He's bursting down the left. He's got Iheanacho with him. Finds Ayoze Perez. Into Amati. And Evans tries to play it incisively through, but gives it away, and Aguero picks it up. Jesus into De Bruyne, and De Bruyne had Mahrez free, but he just, for probably one of the first times I've ever seen it, made the wrong connection on a pass.
It is unheard of, isn't it, that De Bruyne doesn't make the right pass? Or, well, it was obviously the right attempt of a pass. It just wasn't the execution, was it? But you've got to give credit to Wesley Fofana making that crucial interception, just stepping in and making sure that ball didn't trickle on through to Mahrez. Because had that gone through to Mahrez, you would have thought that Manchester City would have at least worked Kasper Schmeichel in the Leicester goal.
Yeah, I think if that goes through to Mahrez, I'd be pretty confident that being 1-0 to City, because Mahrez is a pretty clinical finisher.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his scoring this season, Mahrez, has been absolutely superb. And well, as everybody knows, he likes to go in on that left foot of his and then go on his right, then go back on his left. He's such a tricky player to play against, isn't he, Riyad Mahrez? And he, a few of these Leicester players will certainly know a lot about him, given how successful he was in his 4 years at the club.
Yeah, especially, that 2015-16 season, 17 goals and 10 assists, absolutely instrumental to their Premier League title win. There's now Castagna. Back into Kasper Schmeichel. Another absolutely essential member of that title-winning squad is Kasper Schmeichel, sitting on, over 400 appearances for Leicester. He made 10 appearances for Manchester City, but he's definitely a Leicester legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Real safe pair of hands, isn't he, in the goal? Very consistent, isn't he, for Leicester City? I mean, he's one of the keepers again, very underrated. I mean, if you were to do a top 5 list of keepers in the Premier League. He wouldn't even make a list of some people. But, I think he's always in there for me. For a small height, he's someone who possesses a real good leap. He's a good presence, commanding, a leader. And I think, having a keeper like that behind you as a defence really does give you a lot of reassurance, no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Schmeichel, you got to think about, just as I said, how experienced he is. And yeah, I think people do forget about him when it comes to top goalkeepers in the Premier League. I rarely see anyone put him in even probably their top 10, to be honest, which is scandalous. This is now Kyle Walker trying to advance forward. City very ponderous on the ball so far. Diaz taken 4 or 5 touches. Leicester clearly happy to let them have the ball there. Mendy finds Jesus. Surprised Benjamin Mendy's playing. He's been a player who's rarely been involved this season. It's always been Zinchenko or Cancelo at left back usually, but he's been given his chance. Be interested to see how he does. This is De Bruyne. Clever ball into Mahrez. Mahrez drills it across the box, and there's Johnny Evans. Right place, right time. And away come Leicester through Castagna into Jamie Vardy. Back to Castagna. Tielemans loses it. Rodri playing a bit of different role today. He's usually that sitting one instead of Fernandinho, but looks like he's going to have to play a bit more of a box-to-box role.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the role that İlkay Gundogan has taken up this season and absolutely excelled in, isn't it? I mean, obviously, he's looking ahead to the midweek game in the Champions League, isn't he? Is Pep Guardiola. So, obviously, that's why Rodri's come into the team with Fernandinho. It's a different role for him. You don't associate Rodri with scoring goals. I mean, he's only got 1 to his name this season, and that was a penalty. So, it's a different role for him. But, of course, it probably just maybe will allow De Bruyne just to play even further up the pitch and almost not play, if you like, as a number 8, but almost play even further as a number 10, sort of, on the pitch today.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I saw the lineup, I kind of assumed it'd be Fernandinho and Rodri sitting with De Bruyne in like a free role, and that sort of seems to be where it is. De Bruyne has picked up spaces on the left, he's picked up space on the right so far, and that's what I guess you want your most creative player to be, to have that sort of freedom. And City here just happy to knock the ball around. Leicester's record against Manchester City isn't great. They've lost 8 of the last 10. The last time they won here at the King Power, they won 2-1 in the 2018-19 season on Boxing Day. Don't know if you remember it, but Ricardo Pereira scored an absolute screamer for the winner. Ball in by Mendy. This is Mahrez who just drops it. It drops over him and Castagna comes away with it and Perez is back to help out. Into Fofana. This is now Ndidi who gives it away. It's turned a bit scrappy this game after quite a lively start.
Yeah, just alluding to that Mahrez sort of half chance inside the Leicester box. It was a real deep cross by Mendy. It was literally right on the left-hand touchline when he whipped that ball in. And I think the sun might have just been in Mahrez's eyes. He just tried to take it down and completely just sort of lost his bearings, isn't it? And then obviously, as you rightly said, it went over his head. But it's one of those, Mahrez, you've got to think from a Leicester defence point of view, they were right near him. And even if he did get that under control, he's not got a lot of room to aim for at the goal. So you've got to give the Leicester defence credit for shuffling over and maintaining that shape that isn't allowing the City attacking players any sort of room inside their final 18 yards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking at it so far, Diaz has had loads of the ball, so's Kyle Walker, but haven't really been able to do any much with that. Just to say that Kyle Walker has a strike from 30 yards plus that was going well wide, but in the end, Fofana got in the way of it. Castagna shows some nice feet to get out of a tight space there. All the way back to Schmeichel. Drills it in the direction of Iheanacho. Can't keep it in.
One thing I've noticed certainly on Jack is look how deep Iosi Perez is. What makes Leicester so strong is that, they're very much able to get men back quickly and then hit people on the break because they're so fast. Iosi Perez has been pretty much sat in his defensive half for the majority of the sort of 16 and a half minutes. And he's doing a lot of defensive work. He's sort of receiving the ball short from the Leicester defence who are so confident bringing out from the back. He's, closing down the space that Manchester City like to have so much sort of room to be creative and have a lot of freedom in. So, that's one thing I've really noticed so far about Perez. And I don't think he's not going to be not stopping it as the game sort of wears on. Jose Perez. But he does usually, to be fair, get took off, doesn't he, the Spaniard? So obviously, however long he's on the pitch for, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, he's usually a player, Rodgers. If he starts, he does take him off. But that's, that work rate you alluded to is one of the reasons that Rafa Benitez loved him so much at Newcastle, because he knew he could do a job for the team while also having the quality going the other way. But he's always had incredible work rate as that Jose Perez. And he always helps out his teammates as much as he can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, he's playing a deeper role at Leicester, isn't he? He's always been an out-and-out striker when he was at Newcastle. And, he was always someone who would chase the ball into the channels. But since he's gone to Leicester, he's playing in a position occupied usually by Maddison. He's almost, having to be the creator, the architect of the two strikers or the lone striker. And obviously, he's had to positionally change both attacking and defensively as well. And obviously, you can see the full effect of it, especially in the opening sort of 18 minutes of this encounter at the King Power against the De Bruyne
tries to find Gabriel Jesus. De Bruyne there with the outside of the football. Oh, it's given away poorly. It's going to drop for Aguero, who lashes it high over the bar. You expect a lot better from Sergio Aguero there. He probably had more time than he realised. I think he could have probably even brought that down. But just as I was praising Evans right, not too long ago, he just gives, well, it's...
Right, I mean, Fofana really should be giving that to Castagne there.
Yeah, Castagne there.
Sending that clear for me, and it comes to Aguero, and he just rushes it, doesn't he? He's, as you said, he's got so much time. He can take it down, and he can literally try and put it in the far corner of Schmeichel's goal. And you feel Aguero maybe a few years ago would have stuck that ball in the back of the net, and City would be 1-0 up.
I think one thing he's probably even thinking is just thinking that, I'm on the way out. I want to score a spectacular goal, but he probably should have brought it down, really. Ball played through to De Bruyne. De Bruyne going to get there ahead of Amati. Laporte not starting to advance further forward the ball. I mean, that was the way City scored, actually, against Everton, got their opening goal. Laporte went on a mazy run. He had his shot tipped onto the crossbar, and there was Gundogan to nod it into the empty net. So, with Laporte, he's so confident on the ball, isn't he? He can just carry it. And he usually doesn't really have that much defending to do in most games. So he's the ideal player, basically, for Manchester City.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I think there's been a couple of occasions as well at Man City. He's played at left back, and yeah, he's a very defensive-minded player. But as you rightly said, he is someone so confident on the ball, and he effectively sometimes just drops into the midfield, doesn't he? When the opposition team drop really, really deep and play two banks of four, there's no need to keep the defence back. Guardiola's teams always push up and almost effectively just act as two central midfielders, don't they? And that's what the beauty of sort of Guardiola's teams are like. And Laporte is someone who I think probably is better than, Diaz and Ake doing, is just dropping into that midfield and helping sort of get his passing range in and help to create attacks.
Yeah, I mean, I find it incredible he hasn't got a cap for France yet. That's mind-boggling, but Deschamps does have some odd choices. There's De Bruyne now with some space and time, and he's launched it high over the bar as well. De Bruyne picked it up. Well, it's deflected over the bar in the end. It's going to be a corner, but De Bruyne picking up a little pocket of space there, like what he does. Found nicely by Fernandinho. He turned and he smashed it. And in the end, looks like it's going to be a corner. Referee signalled a corner.
Oh, yeah, it was a brilliant turn, wasn't it, by Kevin De Bruyne? You've got to give credit to, I think it was Mendy that might have played the ball, and obviously Ndidi was closing him down very, very quickly. He comes through to De Bruyne, and he just sees there's quite a few Leicester players in front of him. That probably forces him to rush his shot, and he fires it over the bar. I think it's actually a free kick.
It's going to be a free kick, yeah. It was, looking at the way Anthony Taylor pointed, it looked like give a corner, which I thought was a bit odd.
It did, absolutely, yeah.
Which I thought was a bit odd when I looked at the replay and thought, hang on. So, yeah, it's a free kick. It's a good position, though. About 25 yards out. It's a good position for a right footer, but it looks like, Mahrez looks very, very keen.
Well, I think that this would probably favour Kevin De Bruyne, but he usually doesn't possess a lot of height on his free kicks, does he? I mean, Leicester have pretty much got everyone back in this war, and it's going to be a very tall war. I know indeed he's going to be, right in the centre of that, so they're going to have to do a lot to get that over his head, for sure.
Yeah, De Bruyne has scored a couple of ways, drilled under the wall, hasn't he? But looks like that's going to be stopped with Tielemans lying down there.
Let's just hope it doesn't hit Tielemans with a lot of power, because he'll certainly be feeling that, won't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a wall with a lot of height. Well, looks like it is going to be Kevin De Bruyne. Scored in the last game against Everton. Came on as a substitute. Wrapped it up. De Bruyne steps up. Hits it. Oh, it's hit the crossbar. What an incredible effort by Kevin De Bruyne that was. Rattles the bar and comes away to safety. The attack's still alive here, though. Gabriel Jesus plays it back into Kyle Walker. This is now Mahrez and all the way back. But what a strike by De Bruyne. Schmeichel had no chance with that one.
Bit of the commentator's curse, wasn't it? I said that he doesn't put a lot of hype in his free kicks, and he's absolutely spanked one off the top of the crossbar. What a free kick it was. Schmeichel dived, but he was beaten, wasn't he? Just a few inches lower. That's nestling into the top corner. And we're talking about one of the best free kicks we've seen over the last few years in the Premier League. What a strike. How cruel the crossbar can be.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant effort from De Bruyne. He measured it perfectly, got it up and over the wall. Matter of inches away from giving City the lead, who, as I said, Leicester made a good start, 5 minutes or so, but since then, they've barely had a sniff of the ball.
I think they expected it, though, Jack, if we're all being perfectly honest. I think, as I said, they like to give the bigger teams a lot of
Walker
the ball.
sends it in. Here's Zeus trying to get there at the near post. Just pushes it wide. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I mean, as I was saying, they like to give the opposition teams, especially the sides that are sort of in and around them, like your Manchester United and City, a lot of the ball, and it's effectively down to them to break them down. And obviously, if they lose it in a good position, that's when they'll get the opportunity to, strike an attack and potentially get a goal. So it's not unusual to see Leicester allowing teams to have possession.
Watching that back on the free kick, it looks like indeed he doesn't even touch De Bruyne. I'm not sure on that one. Indeed, he now gives the ball away, and this is Rodri just clipping it through, and it's Jesus. I'm going to take on Evans. Fofana gets back at him and forces him wide, though, but City looking dangerous now, looking to get into their rhythm. Back to Diaz, who's been an absolutely brilliant signing as well. This is Rodri picking up a space on the wing, and, well, his crossing's not exactly his forte, and away comes Mark Albrighton. Wins aside a throw in, a bit of pressure relieved there for the Foxes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just alluding to the Jesus sort of moment in the game, it looks like he might just get the shot away. I think you could argue he maybe have taken a touch or two extra. You've got to give Fofana credit. He's so fast off his feet. He just closes the angle down completely, and it forces Jesus to go wider. So once again, Leicester really slamming the door shut on any sort of Manchester City attack in their final third, if you like.
Yeah, it's going to be Mendy to take this through. 25 minutes or so in. It's been pretty much, as I said, pretty much as we expected. Sort of City dominating the ball, but this is dodgy by Walker, and Perez might pick it up. Vardy beaten to it by Fernandinho, and then Fernandinho goes in again with a strong challenge, and City come away with the ball. Absolutely incredible commitment by Fernandinho there. This is now De Bruyne. Back to Rodri. And Leicester forced them back. Picked up by Kyle Walker, though. Back into Ruben Diaz. And Leicester's just dropped back into their shape. Mendy trying to slip it through. You're not going to slip it through there. Tielemans has been injured, though. Well, I think it might have hit him in maybe a sensitive area, because he could have got the ball there, I think, but he went down. Seems fine now. This is now Laporte carrying it out. Straight after this, carry on Football Commentary Live, as we'll bring you Liverpool versus Arsenal. Straight as soon as this game's finished, that one will start. And I'm sure we'll have some more commentaries lined up for you in the next week or so, because there's Champions League, there's Premier League. We're coming to the business end of the season now. So it's football coming thick and fast. This is Fernandinho, drills it into Aguero. Finds Riyad Mahrez. Mahrez slipping it through. Jesus pulls it back to Aguero. Schmeichel smothers the ball. Jesus didn't get enough on his pass across, but Aguero was nearly in for goal 182 in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lovely ball slipped through by Mahrez to Jesus. Amarte, for me, is the wrong side. He's completely turned, isn't he,
Yeah.
by Jesus? And it's just not enough on the ball, as you said earlier on. If he just puts a little bit more on it and a little bit away from the goalkeeper, Aguero's got a tap in. And as you said, he's getting goal 182 in the Premier League.
This is Perez now trying to glide past Fernandinho. Fernandinho goes down, wipes out the Spaniard, goes down holding his face. I would be surprised if this wasn't a yellow card, to be honest, because Perez was away.
Yeah, it was a rather cynical foul, wasn't it, Jack? I mean, Perez did really well to get away from him. It's an honest challenge, yeah. It's just a boot in the face of Fernandinho as Perez was sort of tumbling to the ground. But I think Anthony Taylor might have been lenient on this occasion. But I'm very, very surprised that he's not brought out a yellow card for that, I must admit.
Yeah, I thought it was a yellow card, but Fernandinho gets away with it. And it's a free kick, but that's very hard to do anything with these sort of free kicks, but we'll see what Albrighton can come up with. It's got Evans in there. There's Ndidi, and he clips it over towards. Well, running in was Fofana, but Edison comes out and swoops it up, and here comes Riyad Mahrez, who just pushes it past Albrighton, but straight up play.
Yeah, you're right with those sort of free kicks because they're so central out, aren't they? It's so difficult to think about what you're going to do. Usually, you do clip it either to the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And obviously, they tried that there, especially Albrighton. And it's just about how much you put on the ball, isn't it? If you put too much on it and you're a keeper who likes to come out and collect the ball like Edison did there, they're going to claim it 9 times out of 10. But if you just take a little bit more off it, there is that chance that an attacking player can flick it on and, present another opportunity inside the box for the attacking team.
Fernandinho finds Mahrez, who leaves Castagne, whips it in. Bit too much on it. Schmeichel, there was De Bruyne running in there. If it had a bit less on it, well, it's intercepted it straight away. Rodri there getting on the end of it. But indeed, he now has the ball back for Leicester. And this is Tielemans, who I've barely mentioned in this opening sort of 29 minutes or so, finds his fellow countryman Castagne. Another new signing for Leicester as well. Been impressed with him when you've seen him. I know he's been injured quite a bit, but he scored on his debut. And he's very versatile because he can play on the right, he can play on the left. Do you like what you've seen of Castagne so far?
Yeah, he fits into this Leicester system absolutely superbly, doesn't he? I mean, they played very similar formation at his old club, Atalanta, and obviously we saw a lot of them, especially in the Champions League, in which they sort of got to the quarterfinals. But he's, acclimatised to English football very, very well. Of course, it's not as what it used to be. It's very much fast-paced now, and it does suit more foreign players that are coming into the division. But been very impressed with him. He's, as you said, very versatile, plays right, plays left, looks very, very comfortable, good on the ball, very dynamic, very direct. I think Leicester have got a real good player on their hands. And for me, he's been a real good replacement in Chilwell's sort of absence, leaving for Chelsea, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. Leicester, when they lose players, they always recruit well to replace them. And I mean, third this season, it looks like they're going to get the Champions League, which they missed out on so cruelly last year, but they just fell away last season. I think they were second until they lost 4-0 to Liverpool on Boxing Day. And then after that, it was a disaster for the Foxes. But Rodgers has rebuilt the side, rebuilt their confidence, and they've been great to watch.
Yeah, I think the one thing about the whole experience last year is mentally it'll make those players even stronger and even more determined, I think. And it just shows in the body language. Away from home, I think they've lost one game all season. They topped the away table standings. Yes, they've lost some games at home, to the likes of Fulham and Leeds, in which they have been quite well beat, but they've recorded some big victories. They've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Liverpool, two sides who were above them in the race for the Champions League last year. So they're getting good results at home as much as anything, and there's a real different feel about this Leicester team than the one last year.
Perez trying to slide it through for Tielemans there, but it was intercepted well, and then De Bruyne has been swiped down by Wilfred Ndidi, and that is going to be an early booking for the Nigerian. He was away from him there, De Bruyne,
doesn't he?
And then he just takes him out. It's a clear yellow card, but you have to say if that's a yellow card, I know how Fernandinho isn't a yellow card.
It's a very good point, isn't it, that you've just raised, Jack? I mean, but you see with Ndidi, he's done that a lot in the opening 31 and a half minutes. He's been very, very tight, especially to De Bruyne. And okay, he's not been down his side a lot, but when he's got near him, he's been very, very close, very, very not allowing him a lot of space. And there, De Bruyne just brings the ball out just so effortlessly, just glides, doesn't he? Like he's dancing on the ice, if you like, and he brings it out and Ndidi chops him down. Pretty easy decision for the referee to make and an easy booking for Wilfred Ndidi, and you can have no complaints about it.
Nope. And this is Fernandinho trying to find Rodri. You can just see when it comes to Rodri, sometimes he's obviously got the technique, but maybe doesn't quite have the guile that Gundogan has, because sometimes it's coming to him and it's broken down in that unfamiliar role. To be fair to him, it's not his position, but I feel that sometimes the attacks have slowed down when it has come to him. But here comes Laporte. Finds Mendy. Mendy, first time, tries to drill it into Aguero, but Fofana brings it down. Finds Perez. Vardy couldn't find the Spaniard, and Mendy smashes it away into Gabriel Jesus, who tries to flick it around Amati, who stands strong and does well. Quite an interesting, like Amati, I mean, a player who's signed a long time ago, barely really played for Leicester over the period, but this is his 11th Premier League appearance this season, and he's played quite an important role in the games because they've had a lot of injuries, and he's proved his worth on quite a few occasions.
Yeah, he has, and I think he's doing a really effective job tonight as well. I mean, obviously, if you looked at Leicester's squad and you saw Daniel Amate, he's almost a forgotten man, isn't he, in the Foxes squad? But now, as you said, he's made 11 Premier League appearances. He's obviously had bad injuries as well. He's obviously a player who can play in multiple different positions. So that versatility really does add a lot to this team.
Amadi, just as I'm praising Amadi, sliced in the end. Rodri with the snapshot, and it's headed away by Fofana, and it's picked up now by Mark Albright. And Leicester clinging on a bit there. Just as I was praising Amadi, made a horrible clearance that nearly ended up with a goal. It was interesting effort from Rodri, sort of just stabbed at it with his toe, and Fofana got in the way. Picked up by Laporte. Iheanacho snapping back. Not seen much of Vardy or Iheanacho as of yet.
No, I mean, we were giving them a lot of praise early on, weren't we? How quick they were really getting in the Manchester City defenders' faces. But ever since that first sort of 5 minutes, they've just been retreating, haven't they? Staying inside their own half and just allowing Manchester City to have possession at will.
Yeah, it's 10 men behind the ball. Happy to have Laporte with the ball there. Iheanacho and Vardy not even really closing down when City have the ball here. Walker into De Bruyne, who's picked up a space on the right, and he tries to flick one through for Riyad Mahrez, but Johnny Evans swoops across, reads it, showing all of that nous and knowledge, covering for Fofana there.
That's the one thing with Manchester City. They just thrive on having possession, don't they? You never see in their body language that they look like they need to just crank it up a notch. They stay so patient, and it's just the mindset, isn't it? It's just the fact that we know we will get chances. It's just when we do get the chances, we've got to take them. And usually when they're in those sort of situations and in those scenarios, usually they do come out the best of it. So Leicester have got to be careful the fact that they just can't allow Manchester City to just make those too many passes in and around their area, because it could be leaving them in a real bad position as much as anything else.
Yeah, I mean, totally as you say. I mean, I think with City, you never see them getting frustrated when they can't break a team down. There's other teams who maybe do get frustrated. I think Liverpool this season have looked frustrated when they can't break teams down sometimes. But City, I mean, they just don't, and that's why they've won 25 of the last 26 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're a machine.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head, isn't it? I mean, obviously, he's got an unbelievable bench, hasn't he? I mean, on it today, he's got Gundogan, Sterling and Foden. And I mean, he's got Torres on there, who's got sort of 7-8 goals this season. And, that just shows the quality he's got in abundance, that if he can just tweak certain things and maybe put players on to just try and change the intensity, he's got that more than any other club.
Leicester have got a chance here to Ndidi driving it through towards Iheanacho, but Iheanacho's got his hands all over Laporte. It's going to be a free kick. Good defending by the Frenchman. He read where the ball was going to go. He got his body in the way, and Iheanacho was forced into the foul. But Leicester there showing, breaking with numbers. The ball from Ndidi, bit too strong maybe, but good defending by Laporte.
Yeah, it was a really good breakaway from Ndidi, wasn't it? Used his real powerful legs for good effect. You think it's just going to roll on through to Iheanacho through that left-hand side of the on the right-hand side of City's defensive area. But credit to Aymeric Laporte. He just came swooping across, didn't he? It was a really good challenge. And obviously, it was a clear pull by Iheanacho and an easy decision for the referee to give a free kick. But that is the art of defending right there, demonstrated by Aymeric Laporte, and absolutely superb.
And now here he is at the other end, driving with the ball. Finds Mendy, and Mendy just gives it away. And this is Perez. Got some time and space as I use Perez. Straight away, Mahrez is back at him. Find Castagna. Castagna into Perez. I'm going to take on Kyle Walker. Plays it back to Ndidi, who takes a bit of a heavy touch, but he manages to get it out to Castagna. Was worried for Ndidi there. I thought he was going to lunge in, and considering he's already on a yellow card, that could have been dangerous.
That was a very, very smart move, wasn't it? Very smart move.
This is De Bruyne. He's got 4 men up with him. Kudo, Gabriel Jesus, and that's the wrong ball. And Amati collects. Very rarely say that about Kevin De Bruyne, but that was the wrong pass.
You almost feel like he's got to play it on the outside of Amate rather than sort of go the other way. If he went on his right, it's probably going to go through to Jesus, who would have made... He's not made the best of runs, I'll admit. And obviously the pass did let De Bruyne down there, but you just feel like if maybe Jesus had gone the other way, it might have been a different story.
De Bruyne finds Mendy, who smashes one into the box, and it's going to go all the way over the rear. Oh, it's out of play for a goal kick.
Yeah, I think that's what lets Mendy down sometimes. He does put a lot of deep crosses into the box, the Frenchman. He really almost just hugs the touchline down that left-hand side when he plays. And, you know, that's what sort of, I think, Zinchenko is a lot better at. His crossing's got a little bit more variety. He doesn't put a lot of power behind it, and there's a lot less height. But with Mendy, the height and the power's really there. And obviously, had that ball sort of stayed in play, you know, Mahrez is going to have to come a long way out, almost by the corner of the box, to almost just collect it and continue the attack. So it felt a little bit rushed there from Mendy, from my point of view.
Mendy's had a lot of horrible injury problems at Manchester City, but I remember when he was at Monaco, that incredible season they had, and his crossing was absolutely pinpoint every single time, because he just did first-time crosses all the time, but he got them spot on. And since he's had those injuries, he's just never been able to recover that form. This is Aguero. Thought he was going to hit it. Instead, he slips it into Mahrez, who, well, tackled cleanly, but indeed he gives it away. Castagna now managed to just force it out, but Leicester struggling to get out of their half, even when they win the ball, where they want to win the ball. Fernandinho has been excellent in this first half so far.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? He's you know, in his mid-30s now. Fernandinho doesn't look like he's that age, does he? Looks, you know, real fit, looks really on it, doesn't he? He's making real good forward runs. He's making strong challenges. He's someone who's really doing a good job in that midfield. And obviously at the moment, the results not quite showing what a good individual performance it's been.
This is Albrighton skipping inside one. Indeed, he needs to get rid of that. He does. Finds Albrighton. Considering, yeah, City's have just been relentless so far, and Leicester probably be grateful to get through to half-time at this moment in time. But you can also say their plan's working, because apart from that Aguero chance and maybe the Gabriel Jesus pass that didn't come off, obviously they had the disallowed goal, but apart from that, there hasn't been too many chances, as say, obviously De Bruyne at the bar as well, but yes.
Yeah, that's what you've got to say about, you know, Leicester's defence, isn't it? They haven't given too many chances away. I mean, obviously there was the Fernandinho goal, which is probably the only real lapse in concentration they've sort of had, but they've maintained a very high line. They've kept in tandem with each other, and it's working to real good effect, and they deserve a lot of praise for it, but they just want half-time now, don't they? I think you can sense that amongst the Leicester camp. Yeah,
it's, well, just under 5 minutes to go until half-time, and Brendan Rodgers can get his troops in and rally them, and I'm sure Guardiola will just be asking for exactly the same thing from his team, because as you said earlier, they're just so patient. They know that eventually they'll get the chances. Ball played in. That's a lovely flick. It's Riyad Mahrez. He's saved. He's denied by Kasper Schmeichel. Mahrez didn't catch it cleanly, but it's a poor giveaway. It's Rodri. Rodri trying to work some space. Finds Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne hits it. De Bruyne just wide at the far post. Schmeichel maybe had his post covered, but De Bruyne lining that one up. Whips it with venom, but just wide. This is the chance though for Mahrez. Well, it's not. It's for De Bruyne. Thought the Mahrez one. He just didn't strike it cleanly. Otherwise, I think he's got a good chance of scoring that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were saying that they always stay patient. They know they're going to get chances. They literally get two in the space of a few seconds. It's right in front of us now on the monitor that we're watching. It comes to Mahrez, and he's got to go the other side. He would usually in that position go the other way, but on this occasion he decides to go to the near post. Schmeichel's well positioned to make the save with his feet. Doesn't even really need to move, does he? And obviously the De Bruyne chance. He scored an unbelievable goal at the King Power a few years ago where he had an absolute corker from about sort of 25, 30 yards. And he so often just does that, just brings it on his right foot, bends it superbly just past the post. That was a really good attempt and not too far wide from the Belgian.
Oh, definitely not. It was a very, very good effort. And he's been unlucky now twice in this first half. But yeah, going back to Amara's chance, to me, it looks like he just doesn't catch it cleanly. And then also he's just ended up hitting it straight at Schmeichel. This is indeed he trying to work his way through. He's done well. He's found Castagna. Castagna tries to whip the cross in on his favourite right foot. Guess that's one problem. Maybe with Castagna on the left, he's going to want to come back on that right foot every time for a cross, which, limits his options, I guess. But his versatility makes him so important to the team when he plays. So you've got to take the pros and the cons. This is now Fofana. Back into Johnny Evans. Can Leicester build anything up before half-time? Schmeichel clips one in towards Iheanacho. Wins the flick on, but Vardy's not there. And this is now Fernandinho. Tielemans comes away with it, loses it. It's De Bruyne, slips it in towards Jesus. Jesus taking on Johnny Evans. Cuts inside. Still going Gabriel Jesus. Lashes it high and wide in the end. Great approach play from the Brazilian. But then the finish not quite at the required level. And the score remains at 0-0.
Well, De Bruyne tried an earlier pass, didn't he, in the game in that position with Jesus down the left-hand side. It goes through to Jesus. He does really well to come inside on his right foot. He does everything right. But as you said, the execution was pretty poor from him. But again, Leicester get men back. Evans was closing him down and Marte was in there. There was two midfielders in there as well. It's unlucky from the Brazilian. It's good play. But I think a man of, his standard, he'll be expected to at least work Kasper Schmeichel there.
Yeah, he looked a bit off balance, didn't he, when he went for the shot in the end? With Jesus, obviously Aguero was leaving. Guardiola was saying yesterday that City don't have the money to buy a big striker, even though they will be continuously linked with Erling Haaland. I think that's Haaland. I think that's a given. Is Jesus, if they don't sign Haaland, is Jesus enough, or do you think they'll have to sign some form of striker, even if it's not Haaland?
Well, I think with Manchester City, I think what really makes them stand out for me is when they seem to play a winger there, so Sterling or, Foden or whoever it is, they seem a lot better. They're faster, they're quicker. It's almost playing with a false nine, if you like. And Jesus, you can't take it away. His goal scoring in all competitions has been pretty spot on, sort of, since he came to England from Palmeiras. I think it was in January 2017. So Guardiola will give him a lot of faith in him. I mean, I don't buy the whole idea that they can't afford a big striker. I think it's probably because the options are very, very scarce. But I think Jesus can get the goals. It's just whether or not, he's able to just sort of be, able to be on the end of those chances and be in the right positions. Because a lot of the time, Jesus, if especially he plays down the middle, he's never really in those positions where you really want him to be as a striker.
Yeah, I mean, you allude obviously to his goal rate. He's got 80 goals in all competitions for Manchester City. You know what I mean? That is impressive. And his international record's good as well. He's got 20 goals and 40 appearances for Brazil. So he can score the goals, but he does almost seem to do better when he's that wide sort of forward coming in rather than starting as the central striker. We'll, as you say, we'll have to see what happens in the summer with Aguero. Will they replace him or not? That's a good win by Ndidi, and it's Perez. Perez slides it through for Jamie Vardy, who goes round the goalkeeper and taps it in, and it is 1-0 to Leicester on the stroke of half-time. It's Jamie Vardy. He's not been in the game at all. It's offside. But we'll have to see what VAR decides. But at the moment, it's offside. It looked like a perfectly weighted ball by Perez for Jamie Vardy, but the offside flag denies him. And you can see there, he is clearly offside.
Yeah, it's a shoulder, isn't it? It's his right arm. Great finish by Jamie Vardy. That is literally the Jamie Vardy that we know and love, isn't it? Makes those runs through the defensive lines. Good line that Manchester City had there. Great finish by Vardy. But yeah, right call made. Flag was raised, and it was the right decision.
Yeah, well, there is the halftime whistle. So it's been an eventful half at the King Power. We've had 2 disallowed goals. We've had De Bruyne hit the bar. There's been a few other snapshots as well. Aguero had one. Mahrez probably should have done better with one where he drilled it straight at Kasper Schmeichel. But the scoreline remains the same at 0-0. And you have to say, I think Leicester will probably be the happier of the two because their game plan seems to work. And Manchester City have had the chances, haven't been able to break Leicester down as of yet. We'll have to see what happens in the second half. But half-time here at the King Power is Leicester City 0, Manchester City 0.
Thank you very much, Jack, and Matt will be back with them in around about 15 minutes' time. Leicester 0, Manchester City 0. Disallowed goals for both sides. Man City had one earlier in the first half when Fernandinho's effort was disallowed for an offside against the Sergio Aguero in there. And then Jimmy Vardy offside disallowed goal just on the stroke of half time there, just before the half time whistle happened. We are currently still goalless then in this Premier League game. Let's just run you through some of the extra time results which I mentioned, which were still being played in the Scottish Cup. It finished Rangers 1, Stranraer 3 in the end after extra time. If you want to find out the other scores from the Scottish Cup and other scores from today that I mentioned earlier, tune back to the beginning of the programme at the end of this. For Athletic and Edinburgh City drew 2-2. For Athletic won 5-3 on penalties. East Fife were knocked out by Greenock Morton 2-1 after extra time, and Livingston went through against Raith Rovers, winning 2-1. In the other matches which I mentioned today in La Liga, it's currently Osasuna 0, Getafe 0. That's coming up towards half time. Coming up towards half time as well is the game between RB Leipzig and Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich currently leading by a 1-0 in the German Bundesliga game. That's into first half stoppage time there. Bayern Munich have that goal advantage in Leipzig this evening. It's being played in the Red Bull Arena, and currently half time there, RB Leipzig trailing by a 0 in that one. Half time, Osasuna 0-0 with Getafe Goretzka with the goal for Bayern Munich on 38 minutes. In the Italian Serie A, Torino going 2-1 up on 56 minutes against Juventus. Zambria on 27 and 46 minutes for Torino after Chiesa put Juve 1 up on 13 minutes. Unlucky for some, 13. Lyon play later against Lens in France, but Paris Saint-Germain lost 1-0 to Lille. David goal on 20 minutes with the winner Neymar sent off in the 90th minute for his second bookable offence, and Ballot Diallo also sent off in the 91st minute for Lille. Both teams had a player sent off. We'll bring you the scores of the later matches from the Bundesliga and the Serie A, and of course in French Ligue 1 during the evening programme as well. So some good games in the Premier League so far today. We've had a question in as well from our mate and friend Mike Orneman, and I'm going to come to you first, Jack. And he says, what did you make of the shock in the lunchtime game with West Brom beating Chelsea 5-2? So Jack, what did you make of that performance from West Brom, if you saw any of it, or the scoreline?
Well, I was surprised. I was very surprised, but Chelsea just sort of didn't get going at all in the first half. It was like they turned up and just thought they'd win because it's West Brom, because of how bad West Brom have been this season. Then they went down to 10 men, and before half time, they're 2-1 down. Second half, they've got to change it, they've got to go for it, and they got punished. I mean, Pereira was absolutely sensational. He got 2 goals and 2 assists. Callum Robinson got a weird knack of scoring against Chelsea. It's 5 goals now. All of his Premier League goals have been against Chelsea for both Sheffield United and West Brom. It's a bit of an odd one. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of for Chelsea, the top 4 is it blows that wide open now. West Ham will be looking at this thinking, oh, we've got a chance here. So will Liverpool, so will Everton, so will Tottenham. So it's blown that wide open. And from the relegation battle, I still don't think West Brom are going to get out of it, but it gives them hope, I suppose.
It does give us hope. It does give West Brom hope, should I say. And we'll be matting on that question in a few moments' time. Another question from Mike Jack, and he wants to know, he asks this question as well. I'll just put it on the screen now. It says, I'll ask Matt this question as well. It says, where do you see Sergio Aguero going when he leaves Man City at the end of the season? And another question to that is, and where does City go without him? And or do you see them signing? Do you see them signing Mbappe, Haaland, or someone else to replace Sergio Aguero? Matt is now back, so Matt, do you want to take that question first of all? First one is Sergio Aguero. Where do you see him going after he leaves Man City? And the second part of the question is, where did Man City go without him? Who do you reckon they'll sign? Is it Mbappe, Haaland, or someone else in your opinion?
Well, I think where City go? I personally believe I don't actually think he's going to go and sign a striker because I don't think Guardiola has a lot of time for Erling Haaland's agent, which is obviously Mino Raiola. I think they've got a bit of a checkered past, so I think that might put him off going to Manchester City. I mean, obviously, I think Guardiola obviously says that the money's not available to go and sign a striker. I think it's because a lot of the strikers that he probably wants and he feels are world class are going to be very, very pricey. And given this current climate, you know, he doesn't want to spend over 100 million on a forward. I think he'll keep a lot of faith in Jesus. There'll be a lot of pressure on the Brazilian, but obviously Guardiola has, you know, given him a good amount of games ever since he walked through the door at the Etihad, and you know, he'll get the nod as the main striker and has done for the last 2 years. And that's probably to some not done that much, but then you could say his goal scoring record has still been okay. And as I tried to say earlier on commentary, you know, there's been times this season in Manchester City, especially in Aguero's absence, that they've played Sterling or Foden or, you know, one of their attacking midfielders down the middle, and they've looked so much faster, so much better. And I think it's really worked out well for them. So I think going forward, I don't think he's going to go and intend to buy a striker. I think that they'll sort of just keep Jesus and then just sort of tinker around who plays down the middle, maybe for some games. In terms of where Aguero goes, it's difficult to say. I was under the impression he was going to go back to Argentina, but I think I've seen various reports that a lot of European clubs are chasing Aguero. I think Barcelona, I think Chelsea are after him. It just depends how Aguero feels. You know, he's in his 30s. You know, injuries are start to caught up with the Argentine, but he still knows where the back of the net is. And if you're a manager of a top club, when you see Aguero's a free agent, you expect to go and sign him. So it's difficult to say if he will go to European clubs. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Argentina. So it's very, very difficult where he's going to go, but he's got to really weigh things up for sure.
Yes, and just another earlier one, Matt, as well, from Mike. He said, what did you make to the shock in the lunchtime game with West Brom beating Chelsea 5-2? What did you make to the Baggies' performance?
Well, I think you've got to give West Brom a lot of credit. Chelsea today were all over the place defensively. The midfield of Jorginho and Kovacic were completely non-existent. They just looked slow, looked really tepid, and I thought West Brom were fully deserving of the victory. Thiago Silva got a red card, which can, as a lot of people know, red cards do change the game. I think what it has done, though, to the chasing pack, it has completely blown this top 4 race wide open even more. You've got Everton, Liverpool, West Ham. You know, if Arsenal win tonight, they're right back in the hunt for the top 4. So this, win by West Brom really has given those teams at the top a chance to think, do you know what? We can overtake Chelsea based off that. But I think in terms of their survival hopes, they've still got a lot of work to do. I think Sam Allardyce said that they needed 6 wins from 9 of their final games in the Premier League. They've got 1. They need 5. It's just a case of if they can get those wins or not. Because as we know, Sam Allardyce is a survival specialist, but it does look like to me the writing still might be on the wall. But they've certainly given themselves a little bit of hope by going to a side who've not lost under Tuchel and, absolutely wiped the floor of them and hit them for 5. So well played to them on the win, but I still don't know if it's going to do their survival hopes the world of good, to be honest.
Yes, thank you very much there, Martin. The question which I've asked Matt already this evening, and I'll ask you now, Matt, came from Mike, says, where do you see Sergio Aguero going when he leaves Manchester City? And second part of that question, where does City go without Aguero? Or do you see them signing, is it Mbappe, Haaland, or do you see them signing another player?
Well, we had a brief chat about Gabriel Jesus potentially stepping up in Aguero's absence. So if they don't get, I think they're going to go all out for Haaland, in my opinion. Not sure they'll get him, but I think they'll go all out for him. Dortmund missed out on the Champions League, could be huge. That's looking like it's possible as well. So we'll have to see what happens in that one. In terms of Aguero, I mean, he's 32. He had injuries this season, but I think if you get him back to peak fitness, he could still play easily in any of the top leagues in Europe. I don't know. I mean, Barcelona maybe. They've got no money like to spend on transfer fees, but they'll be having an overhaul in the summer, won't they? So maybe he goes to Barcelona. I know he wants to end his career in Argentina, but at 32, still scoring at the rate he does he really have to go back to Argentina yet to end his career? So I think he's probably got another 3 years in a top European league. I'd like to see him at Barcelona.
Yes, there was one point which I was thinking of as well, which I'll fetch Martin on this, see where he reckons to this as well. And what I'm thinking is, with Man City owning New York City in the MLS, I'm wondering whether Aguero will go to the MLS, a bit like what David Beckham and some of the other players have done to finish career. I know you mentioned that Aguero wants to finish his career in Argentina, but I'm wondering whether Sergio Aguero will go to the MLS first for, say, maybe a couple of seasons, and then go back to Argentina for the final, say, 2 seasons of his playing career. What do you make to that, first of all, Matt?
That is a very, very good point. I mean, obviously, that relationship is something that has worked in the past. I mean, Frank Lampard had a season at Manchester City before he went to New York City to end his career. I do believe that Aguero will finish his career in Argentina, as Jack said, which I think is a very good point. I think he's always said that he wants to play for either Independiente or Estudiantes. It's one of those two where he sort of began his career. I could be completely wrong, but I remember it's sort of along those lines of which club it was. So it is entirely plausible that he could go and play in the United States. But I feel like, as what Jack said, he's still got a lot to give in Europe. And Barcelona, I think, is probably the perfect destination for him, given that, Griezmann's not really fancied there. Messi doesn't play down the middle. But there is that strong possibility that he could go to the States and go to New York. It's such an attractive proposition, isn't it? New York is such an iconic city. There's a connection with the City Football Group, so don't completely rule it out. So I think that's a very, very good point in this that's been raised by you, Russ.
And what do you make to that, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I think MLS can't rule it out. You mentioned the one linked to City. Well, David Beckham's club. Beckham was talking recently, saying how he wants to get the biggest names he can to his club to play in the MLS, and there's not many bigger names around than Sergio Aguero for a free transfer. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does want to go to America. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami are in for him.
Yes, it'd be a very good point there as well. Jadder already got Gail Clichy over the Kieran Gibbs over there, already signed up at the end of the season when he leaves West Brom when his contract runs out there. So we just see if that's where Aguero goes, if it is to America. The Manchester City players are back out on the field. Leicester players are just coming back out onto the field. It doesn't look like there's going to be any changes as of yet for any of these two sides and managers. So to toil through the next 45 minutes and any changes that do happen throughout, is back to Matt Iles and first, Jack Cunningham.
Thank you, Russ. Good chat in the half time there. Some very interesting points raised, some good discussion. But yeah, we are back out for the second half. Looks like no changes, totally unchanged. Just have a look at the benches. Leicester, if they want to change it, they've got Dennis Pratt and James Maddison. Ricardo Pereira as well, if they wanted to go for an out-and-out right wing-back. So there's options, but obviously City's bench, well, that's got Cancelo, Sterling, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, who's got 12 Premier League goals this season, Phil Foden, Ferran Torres. So if the score remains 0-0 for much longer, City have a wealth of options. But, I mean, Leicester with James Maddison on the bench, can't rule out how important either bench is going to be, I think, for the rest of the game.
Well, I'll be amazed if James Maddison doesn't take any part in this game. Obviously, it depends on how fit he is. I mean, if he was fully fit, you would have imagined him slotting right into the team. So there's obviously going to be a bit of doubt as to when they put him on. And as and obviously, as you said with Manchester City, the talent speaks for itself. They could literally bring anybody on, and you'd think that they would almost be that spark that would just completely change the game, wouldn't it? Be the game changer. So it's interesting to see what both managers do and when they potentially think about bringing the changes.
Yeah, definitely. And Leicester straight away, it looks like it's going to be more of the same from them. And in fairness to Leicester, a point sends them 8 points clear of fifth as it stands, and they're getting ever closer to being back in the Champions League.
Yeah, they are. I think it's results like this, isn't it, that will want them to stay in the top four. Obviously, their away form is better than at home, but against the sides in the Big Six, you've already got sides that they've beaten at home. The likes of Liverpool, Chelsea have been beat here at the King Power. So they look very much a team for me, ready-made to be in the Champions League next season. But of course, we did say that before the suspension of the league last year, and they just completely fell to pieces. So time will tell, but I think that this side is going to be Champions League bound.
Whipped it into the back post, headed away by Castagna. This is Perez picking it up now. And then Castagna clears straight up play. Yeah, no, totally agree. I think Leicester have got a very, very strong chance of getting that third Champions League spot. I can't see many of the other teams catching them at all, to be honest. They've had a brilliant season. This is Mahrez trying to scoop past Fofana, but gross. I mean, for how young Fofana is, his reading of the game is so impressive. And this is Perez bringing it away. Maybe holding on to a bit too long there, Perez. And he gives it away, and it's Aguero. And this is De Bruyne. De Bruyne loses it, comes out to Gabriel Jesus. He finds Sergio Aguero, who hits the floor, but he's sort of get up by Anthony Taylor. That all came from Jose Perez giving the ball away.
Yeah, he just dwells on it too long, doesn't he? He's got to get rid of it. When you play against Manchester City, you can't spend longer than a few seconds on the ball. You've got to get rid of it. And obviously, they just pickpocket him. Jesus is the right ball into Aguero. I think it might take a little nick off a Leicester player as it goes on through to Aguero. That just takes it away from him. But you've got to give Fofana a lot of credit for the defending as well.
This is Yuri Tielemans lining up. Shoots! Edison gets his body behind that and comfortably collects. But that's the first we've seen of Yuri Tielemans, who's got an interesting record. Every single game he scored in, Leicester have never lost.
That is a fantastic statistic. Great find by you, Jack. I mean, it's the first time you've seen him get inside sort of Manchester City's final 20 yards. It's their first shot on target. He is a player who's not afraid to strike from distance, but it was a pretty straightforward save made by Edison.
Fantastic pick out there to find Gabriel Jesus. Second half's already started quite lively here, and it's back into Mendy. This is now Laporte. Back into Ruben Diaz. I mean, Ruben Diaz, since he's come in, I mean, the defence has been transformed for City, hasn't it? I mean, he's only 23, but I was reading an article in The Athletic about him, and apparently he's a leader in the dressing room already. He came in and he just dominated that dressing room. And this is now Mendy. Oh, lovely skill by Benjamin Mendy. Can he now pick out the right ball? No. De Bruyne collects it. Back into Laporte. Could be a long second half this for Leicester.
Well, they withstood it in the first half for quite long spells. And it's as you said, they look like they're going exactly the same way about it. If you can do it for 90 minutes, shutting Man City out, it's a real achievement. But a lot of sides have tried it. A lot of sides have failed.
Yeah, so obviously the game I covered before the international break was Everton in the FA Cup, and Everton did exactly the same as this. But eventually, City just wore them down. And as soon as they score that first goal, you've then got to open up. And then they've got all that talent It's so hard. It's so hard to play against a team like this, and it's hard to see any team stopping them this season. They could very easily do the quadruple.
I personally believe that they can do it, but it's whether or not they will do it. Can and will is two different things, as you know.
Very true. De Bruyne, what a ball. It comes to Rodri, and he can't make anything of it. It looked like on the stretch, I think it was Ruben Diaz who just couldn't quite reach his leg long enough. What an absolutely peach of a delivery that is from Kevin De Bruyne.
Oh, it's a superb ball, isn't it? That's what De Bruyne is so good at. It goes all the way through. Diaz, if he's just a little bit taller, he'll literally get the contact on it with his foot, and Rodri's just not got enough time to turn and think about what he's going to do. It just cannons off him and goes out, but that's a let off for Leicester for sure.
Yeah, absolutely no blame on Rodri there. It was at him before he could even think about it, so it would have been incredible piece of reactions to manage to turn that into the net. It was all about Diaz managing to stretch a leg out, and he just couldn't quite. Great tackle by Jamie Vardy. And it's out Iheanacho driving at the heart of the Man City defence. He needs some help. He's got Tielemans with him. He showed lovely feet. He's found Yuri Tielemans. What a brilliant sliding tackle that is by Ruben Diaz to deny Yuri Tielemans a goal, because Iheanacho, what brilliant play by the Nigerian that was.
Yeah, he just keeps the ball close to his feet, doesn't he? Great defensive work by Jamie Vardy to win it off Fernandinho. He just waits Iheanacho and waits, and he releases it at the perfect time. It goes to Tielemans. He takes it on. It's a really good attempt at goal, actually. Really good sliding challenge by Ruben Diaz. But that is what has been the difference with Leicester in sort of the 6 minutes of this second half. Tielemans going forward, making those runs, being the box-to-box man. And I think he could be crucial for Leicester between defence and attack in this second half.
I think that was going in, to be honest, looking at it. Albrighton now whips it in. Powerful header away, totally free. And this is now Mahrez. What can he do with the ball? He sort of lays it off to De Bruyne, who just skips by his man, but loses it, and it's picked up by Albrighton. And this is now Iheanacho. Iheanacho finds Vardy, who gets it stuck in his feet. Otherwise, Jamie Vardy was away.
Yeah, if he plays that in front of Vardy, I think Vardy's going to be on goal. You're not going to be catching Jamie Vardy, are you? He's one-on-one with Ederson. You would have probably fancied Vardy to sit the ball in the back of the net, but it's unlucky for Iheanacho. But it's just the emergence of this second half from Leicester. They just want to play a little bit quicker, a little bit more on it. And I think that is what Brendan Rodgers wanted, just drilled into them at halftime, saying, look, we know we're not going to get many opportunities, but when we do, we've got to play it quick, and we've got to play that right ball through. And Iheanacho, Tielemans and Vardy are looking very on it inside the opening 7 minutes of this half.
Yeah, definitely. And this is now Fernandinho tries to drill it into Aguero, finds De Bruyne. He's got time on the space on the ball and clips one out towards Kyle Walker. He's going to send the cross in. Walker whips it in. There's Evans. Right place, right time. Powerful header away. All the way back towards Ederson, who again, really odd with Ederson. He's only got 7 caps for Brazil, but that's obviously because he's got Alisson to compete with. It's just a bit unfortunate for him. He's probably never going to get the international recognition that he probably deserves, really.
No, and it's a real shame, isn't it? I mean, imagine being the manager of Brazil and, you got 2 very good goalkeepers, 2 very different goalkeepers as well, actually. I mean,
yeah.
I don't claim to watch a lot of Brazilian national football, but I think very much an international level, it is very much you go with a goalkeeper that's kind of still very old school. And I think Alisson is, he's okay with his feet, not compared to Ederson, whose footwork is probably the best in world football for a goalkeeper. And I think, it's one of those, if you dropped him in midfield and, he put on an outfielder's shirt, he wouldn't look out of place, would he? But yeah, it is a shame that he's stuck behind Alisson in the pecking order for the Brazilian national team.
Diaz has just picked out an absolutely gorgeous pass to Kyle Walker. And Walker now sends it in, and it doesn't quite reach Gabriel Jesus. It was deflected, and Schmeichel gets there ahead of the Brazilian. But Diaz I didn't know he had that in his locker, just unleashes a 60-yard ball, inch perfect for Kyle Walker.
Well, we were waxing lyrically, weren't we, about Aymeric Laporte and his passing range. And it's an absolutely stunning ball by Diaz. Walker, we didn't really see him do it a lot in the first half, where he just made those runs on the right-hand side, really stretched the play. He kind of delayed the cross a little bit, Walker, I felt. It was good defending, nonetheless, by Timothy Castagna, but, the ball just trickled on through to Schmeichel. But, Diaz, it was an unbelievable pass into Kyle Walker. And, it just shows that Manchester City don't just need one player to start playing balls out from the back. They've got many.
Terrible ball by Amati, and this is Rodri, finds Gabriel Jesus, gets it stuck in his feet. Indeed, he comes back and Leicester clear their lines eventually. Very risky play by Daniel Amartey, though, and Leicester have lost the ball high up the field quite a few times, actually, in this game, and they've got away with it every single time so far, but you can't see that continuing.
No, you can't. And I mean, obviously, eventually, you can only do it so much before the opposition punishes you, and they just about get away with it. It was sloppy from Amartey, and Didi challenged Jesus, and then it just sort of came back to him, but then Evans and Fofana are able to just shuffle across and do the business. So, well played to the Leicester defence there, but you're right in what they said. They've got to cut it out.
Yeah, Perez there finding Vardy, but Vardy just playing the ball behind the run of Castagna, and City come again. Be interested to see when either Guardiola or Rodgers make their subs. I saw him talking to James Maddison before, so I'm wondering if he's not going to be too far away from an introduction. He could be the man to change the game for Leicester. 8 goals and 7 assists this season for James Maddison. Again, another player who I feel has got no international recognition, only 1 cap for England. I know there's a lot of competition for his place, but it still feels very harsh on James Maddison.
Absolutely. He's a tremendous player, isn't he? I mean, he is someone who, you don't actually believe is English, given sort of in the era that we've grown up in, Jack. We've not really been blessed with a lot of attacking quality.
Jesus sends it into the box. It's going to reach Aguero, and it's blocked brilliantly by Castagna. This time, Aguero had good contact with his volley, but the Belgian national was in the way. Good strong block by Castagna. Aguero looking for that goal, 182.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lovely ball into Aguero. The technique is spot on, isn't it? He hits it well, just lets it come across him. It's a really good block by Castagna nonetheless.
Yeah, he's looking a bit more sharp as the game goes on. This is going to be Mahrez. Sends it into the box as a decent ball, but Evans climbs over Ruben Diaz. Evans, once again, so far has been absolutely rock solid at the back of that, in the back of that back three. 34 years old now is Johnny Evans. He's been round the block, but as I said earlier in the first half, just for 3.6 million, it's just a brilliant signing, really, and he's continuing to show how good he is as the game goes on.
Sort of when he was in the final few years at Man United, wasn't he? Just sort of lost his way, wasn't playing, and he just almost looked like he was, falling down, wasn't he? And obviously he was at West Brom. He just rediscovered his form, and he kind of came to the attention more and realised how good a player he was. And he's coming at Leicester. Obviously, he's the heartbeat of this three at the back. He really complement each other. He's a good leader. Obviously, the experience of Wes Morgan's hard to replace, but Johnny Evans has come in, and every season he just seems to get better and better, and just doesn't feel out of place in a Champions League chasing team.
No, definitely not. It's been so impressive, and this is now Laporte into Ruben Diaz in towards Mendy. Remember, straight after this, we'll have coverage of Arsenal versus Liverpool. This is Aguero trying to squeeze it through to Rodri. Can't quite, but it's going to end up back with the Spaniard anyway. Mahrez looking to tease and taunt, but he just plays the simple pass. He's got the ball back now, Riyad Mahrez from De Bruyne, and Mahrez hits it. Schmeichel stands big and strong and denies him. Rodri sends it in. Here's Zeus there. It's going to drop to Mendy. Mendy still going. Mendy curls it in. The brilliant goal by Benjamin Mendy. He showed everything. He showed all the composure there. Cut back in on his right foot and bent it in. And it is 1-0 to Manchester City. And it is Benjamin Mendy's first goal of the season.
Well, that was on his weaker right foot as well. What a goal it was. They just persist, don't they? It was Mahrez's first shot, and the keeper saved it. It was a really powerful effort, wasn't it? And Schmeichel obviously just didn't even move to push it away. Rodri puts a really good ball in. You think it's going to go to Jesus, who just peels down to that far post on the left-hand side. And then it just sort of comes to Mendy, and he just waits, doesn't he? Just thinks, if I get on my right foot, I've got a better chance at finding the corner. Does exactly that. For me, Albrighton's got to stand up. He shouldn't be jumping in like that. That allows Mendy to set the chance up and just put it in the far corner of Schmeichel's goal. Really good finish from Benjamin Mendy. And he's been a lot better in this second half going forward with his crossing. And obviously he gets that finish here, and a really well taken finish as well. You think he was a striker with a finish like that and not a left back, but really good goal. And Manchester City finally in front with an hour on the clock about to come up.
Yeah, I was about to say that Aguero would have been proud of that one. I think it's actually his second Premier League goal of the season Well, fair enough. But Mendy showing some great composure there, chopping inside his man. Initially I thought the chance had gone because I thought he had to hit it first time. But as you said, Albrighton sold himself. And now Leicester have it all to do.
It's interesting what's going to happen now from the tactical point of view. That's the interesting thing for Brendan Rodgers. Does he stick with it for at least 5 to 10 minutes, or does he think, I want to go immediately and go on the front foot and get an equaliser? They went 1-0 down to Liverpool, remember, a few weeks back, and immediately changed things, and it worked. I know that Manchester City are a real hard beast to play against, but in a big game like that, you maybe be tempted to make the changes to really help your attacking players out.
Well, it looks like it's going to be City to make the first change. I can see someone warming up on the far side there. We'll have to see who that is and who they come on for. But, I mean, as we already said about their bench, it could literally be anyone. This is now Mendy. After the goal, it was a great finish. It really was, just showed some great composure, lovely skill, and with his weaker right foot, just sort of bent it sumptuously into that corner. And we'll have to see how Leicester respond. Mendy there, almost giving the ball away. Vardy was sniffing around, but good defending. Tielemans picks it up. Back into Evans. Evans, clever ball into Iosi Perez. Perez got Castagna with him. Finds Castagna. Castagna instantly wants to get back on that right foot, though. And the ball's back with Evans now. I think we'll be seeing, as you said, probably have to see how long Leicester want to stick with the system, but I'd be surprised if James Maddison doesn't come on very soon. This is now Youri Tielemans. Finds Amartey into Albrighton. Fofana drills it into Castagna, just about keeps it in, gets his head up, sends his cross in just over the head of Jamie Vardy. And it will be a throw to the Foxes. And we're going to see, just Raheem Sterling coming on.
Only just Raheem Sterling. I mean, he's someone that Leicester don't need to fear. Obviously, Aguero is the man who's going to be replaced. He doesn't obviously last a full 90 minutes, does he, these days, Aguero? And in particular this season, given his injury problems and obviously, being sort of hit with coronavirus, and obviously, Sterling coming on, he's just going to bring more pace. It'll be interesting to see if he, goes and plays down the middle and he keeps Jesus out there, or they both swap. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. But it looks like at the moment he's just going to be playing as almost the main outlet through the middle, Sterling. So it is a change, very much a swap rather than sort of swapping with another player on the pitch in terms of his position.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, that whole front four is so interchangeable, they'll probably all be floating around. But yeah, I mean, just to show you the strength of City's bench, they've just took off a player who scored 181 Premier League goals for a player who scored 95 Premier League goals.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
And he also has 4 goals in in his last 13 appearances against Leicester, which is one of his actual worst records for teams he's faced, but he's still caused them pain in the past. So we'll have to see what he does. But this is Perez now, picking up the ball. He tries to play an absolutely delightful ball through with Jamie Vardy. If that came off, that would have been one of the passes of the season. Yeah,
they look $1 million when they come off, don't they? But when they don't come off, you almost look at the player and think, why is he trying to pass like that? But you can't fault him for trying it. And he almost came up with the goods.
Fernandinho just hikes it away. Fofana just lets it run across him and all the way back to the Danish international Kasper Schmeichel. This is now Ndidi again. Fofana, City pressing so high as they like to do. Castagna into Iosi Perez. Perez, lovely feet to just skip away from Fernandinho. He finds Iheanacho. Iheanacho tries to drill his cross in. It's blocked well by Kyle Walker. It's going to be a corner, I think.
It certainly appears to be that way, but that's better from Leicester. We're starting to see Iheanacho drift out to that left-hand side, and he's almost playing up against Kyle Walker. It was a good ball into him. He was sort of in the last sort of area of the box, and he's got to put that ball in. You hope it goes on through to Jamie Vardy, but unfortunately kicked out of play for a goal kick.
Yeah, it's a goal kick. I thought it was deflected, but obviously not on this occasion. This is Diaz into Aymeric Laporte. City just slowing it all down. Saw Brendan Rodgers in deep discussions there with his bench, so we'll be interested to see what he comes up with. Ball clipped over here. Well, Morris was in behind, but Castagna reads it. Schmeichel with a big throw into Perez. Perez, lovely little nutmegs on Rodri.
Yeah, he did really, really well, didn't he, Perez? He was under real pressure. He's got to think on his feet. And obviously, we saw him early on in the second half where he just had the ball and he dwelled on it far too long. This occasion, he learned his lesson, just got the ball. He thought, I'm just going to try and get away from Rodri. And the worst I can do is literally give the ball away. And the best I can do is come away and spin away from the man. But obviously, he got body checked by Rodri, and it was a easy decision for Anthony Taylor to give a free kick down that Leicester City right-hand side.
And Tielemans was desperate to take that quickly, but City just basically stopped him from doing it. It's been an odd one. Fernandinho pretty much grabbed him and stopped him from taking the free kick, but I don't know, the referee took no action, and in the end it ended up with City winning the ball back. Good tackle though by Perez. He probably, well, as we said, he doesn't really usually last the 90 minutes, so probably if Maddison does come on, could be for him, might be for one of the centre-backs. We'll have to see when Rodgers decides it's time to introduce James Maddison.
If you're thinking it from sorry to interrupt you, Jake. If you're thinking it from a tactical point of view, you've almost got to look at it and think he's not probably going to take off one of the two strikers given the good form they're in. So one of the midfielders will be coming off, and I'll be amazed if Ndidi or even if for that fact Tielemans come off. It will feel like Perez, and obviously I don't think Rodgers is going to change this system one bit to accommodate, Maddison or any player to come on for that fact.
Sterling keeps it in, and in the end, can't win a side of throw, but forces Leicester deep in their own half. This moves Manchester City 17 points clear of second. If the title race wasn't already over, it's definitely over if this result, if this is the same. And then they can just focus entirely on the Champions League. And as we see there, James Maddison is going to be coming on. Also, he's having words with Ricardo Pereira, so it'll be interesting if he comes on as well. For now, it's De Bruyne. Iheanacho. Oh, good tackling, good battling from Iheanacho there to snatch it back off De Bruyne, his former teammate. Also, March's Player of the Month. Kelechi Iheanacho, new contract, and March's Player of the Month. How he would love a goal against his old side. Evans into Iheanacho. Nice layoff into Tielemans. This is Iheanacho again. Trying to find Castagna or Perez, but he just held onto it too long. And away comes City. And it's De Bruyne. Finding Rodri's got loads of space. Can he pick the right pass? Finds De Bruyne. Oh, I tried the first time ball into Sterling. Good block though. And away come Leicester with the ball.
Well, De Bruyne was so unlucky, wasn't he, trying to play that ball through? It was just so quick from City. 1-2 touch passing. Leicester looked all at sea, to be fair, and De Bruyne nearly came off with the pass. But just before that, Iheanacho had the ball, and it's just a case of just dwelling on it far too long. Just that maybe 3-4 seconds. You've just got to get the ball and play it. He had two players scampering forward. I'm not too sure the two players were. I want to say Castagna was one of them, but he's got to play it quick because Manchester City, there, as we know, the fullbacks go so high that the space was there down that left-hand side, and that is something that's going to really irritate Brendan Rodgers, seeing that attack just sort of die out like it did.
It was Perez and Castagna who were free, and this is now Perez. Jose Perez trying to bundle his way through. Never scored against Manchester City in the Premier League in his now 10 appearances so far against Guardiola's side. Never scored against them. The sub's been made. I saw a Leicester player walking around, but not entirely sure what's actually happened. Saw a Leicester player walking back to the bench. We'll have to see what happens there. But so it was definitely James Maddison is definitely coming on, but not as of yet. This is Diaz into Walker. Walker finds Jesus. Jesus got a man at his back and he rolls him. Castagna getting too tight there, allowing Jesus to show his quick feet and skill. And wins aside a free kick. He clearly wants more, but I think it's just a free kick.
Yeah, it's not a booking, is it? It's an honest attempt by Castagna to just try and win the ball. But Jesus very, very clever there, isn't he? He knows he's in a tight space, an area of no real attacking notes. You just think, so just win a free kick so we can just keep the possession. And he got what he wanted with Castagna, just sort of fouling him in the back. Yeah,
and I can see on the far side, it does look like it is going to be Maddison and Pereira. So the double change from the Foxes. Be very intrigued to see who it is who comes off, sorry. This is now Sterling, who's just picked up that free roll, and De Bruyne can't find him, though. This is now a Marty. Marty taking his time, finds Albrighton. Tielemans stands on the ball, comes away with it, and it's going to be given a free kick against Tielemans.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm not quite sure about that. I was sort of groaning to myself on commentary, and it almost looked like Tielemans has just done really well to hold off his man, and the Manchester City player just sort of tumbled to the ground, really, because Tielemans just did well to out-muscle him and just sort of hold him off, but Anthony Taylor obviously thought different.
Yeah, off goes Mark Albrighton then, so Pereira comes on to play, presumably, a right wing-back. He did score that winning goal in that last win here at the King Power for Leicester. And off goes Kelechi Iheanacho. So there's not going to be a goal against his old team for Iheanacho. Instead, James Maddison, and I would assume that means Perez will go up front with Vardy. So it looks like no change in system, but maybe just a slightly different role for Ayoze Perez.
Yeah, it could easily vouch for that. I mean, Maddison will be in his usual position that he knows so well, which is the 10. And I think you can obviously see the change quite quickly that Perez is in the 2 with Jamie Vardy. And we know with Perez, he's worked hard in the middle tonight. He's going to have to do it up front, chasing the ball down that left-hand channel where Walker and Diaz are. Vardy will do it on the right, even though he's not done it as much. But I think with Maddison coming on, there is that sense that, do you know what, we can move the ball into him because he can make things happen for us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now coming into the last 20 minutes, Leicester have it all to play for, and they just need to get Maddison on the ball. That's Castagna trying to run past his man, does well, but in the end, it's very, very good defender, Kyle Walker, who still at the age of 30 has ridiculous recovery pace.
Yeah, I think Kyle Walker, a lot was talked about his positioning, especially sort of in the last season with Manchester City, but he's really improved on that side of the game. He just didn't allow Castagna any room to get on the outside of him, and he's very, very confident in a foot race, isn't he? He would certainly back himself, and I know a lot of people would against attacking players. He did very, very well. Castagna, you maybe could be a bit critical, say he could have put the ball in a little bit quicker, but you've got to give a lot of credit to Kyle Walker for that.
Well, we're going to have a yellow card here, which will be the second yellow card of the game. Is it going to Edison for time wasting?
Yeah, I think it was going to
Edison for time wasting.
It feels like, though, with the booking now, if Edison's got booked for time wasting with 18 minutes of the game to go, he's going to have to start booking players from this point onwards. It's just the consistency, I think, that you've got to look for from Anthony Taylor here if he's decided to issue yellow cards for time wasting. And that includes throw-ins, free kicks from the defensive point of view. So really, it depends now if Anthony Taylor's going to be sticking by that or whether or not he just felt he needed to issue a yellow card.
Yeah, well, but the problem with English referees, and has been all season and last season with VAR, is the consistency. What an absolutely beautiful ball that is by De Bruyne. And here's Raheem Sterling to wrap it up. He's still got it, Sterling. He squares to Jesus. And it's 2-0 to City. That was a beautifully crafted move. De Bruyne's through ball was absolutely majestic. Sterling showed wonderful feet to just lay it off for Jesus, who taps in his 81st goal for Manchester City. It's delightful play there by De Bruyne. That ball through is absolutely sublime. Comes into Sterling. Shows lovely feet. Weighs up the pass. And there's Jesus. Never going to miss from there. And that is game over, one would suggest. I think we've lost Matt. Not sure what's going on there. If you can hear me, Matt, I don't know what's going on. But I can't hear you anymore.
Oh yeah, well, sorry, I had that on mute for some weird reason. But yeah, as I was saying, it was a lovely play from De Bruyne, and you think Sterling is going to be really selfish and just go for goal himself. He does brilliantly to check it back. You think he might have messed it up, but he lays it beautifully onto Jesus to his right. He's all of about 5-6 yards and just rolls it into the empty net.
Yeah, I mean, on the replay, looking at that ball from De Bruyne, it was absolutely perfect because Evans was on the stretch and couldn't quite reach it. There was another player on the stretch who just couldn't quite reach it. If he gets that even slightly wrong, at least one of those intercepts the ball. But instead, it just rolls through perfectly for Gabriel Jesus, and then he squares about Sterling, and then from there, well, it's just unselfish play, isn't it? And Jesus is delighted to tap it in, and it looks like we're going to be seeing Ferran Torres. New signing from Valencia. I mean, his international record, 10 caps, 6 goals for Spain. This is now De Bruyne. Leaves it for Riyad Mahrez. Clips it in. Pretty poor ball. Headed back across. And then headed back to Kasper Schmeichel. But yeah, Ferran Torres. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Rodri was in a lot of space from that first header away. And he was allowed to just go to that right-hand sort of corner of the box and just flick it forward. And unfortunately for him, it just can't quite carry on through to Ruben Diaz. But you've got to say, Rodri should not be allowed to go from the middle to the right unopposed like that. And that could have been a whole lot different had that ball run on through to Ruben Diaz.
Yeah, definitely. You have to say, I think the goal, that second goal has come at almost the perfect time for Manchester City because of Leicester making those changes moments before. It's killed all of their momentum now, and we'll have to see how they do. But this City side is just absolutely relentless. It's now going to be, 126 out of their last 27. It's just incredible numbers that they're churning out at the moment.
They're just a phenomenal side to watch, aren't they? I mean, I keep elaborating. I might sound like a broken record, but you could just watch this side for 90 minutes. It's generally sometimes like watching a training exercise, isn't it? Attack versus defense. They just never panic. They never freeze. They are just so calm. They're so calculated. They know they will get chances in games. They got the Mendy chance. They just persist, knock on the door, and then finally, with enough force, to just break it down and obviously score the 2 big chances.
Here's to snatch the ball up brilliantly here. It's Riyad Mahrez. And he's put it wide. He had the chance there to score against his old side. It's a glorious chance for Mahrez. And he's bent it wide of the far post. Evans was dallying on the ball. Gabriel Jesus, such intense pressing, forces the mistake twice, plays it in De Bruyne, and then this is Mahrez, and you'd bet any amount of money on him scoring there, and he's put it wide.
I think that's what they call a glorious chance, isn't it? Great play by Jesus to win it back. De Bruyne just sets it up first time. De Bruyne already knows, even before he's received the pass, where he's going to put it. Mahrez, for me, probably opens up just a little bit too much. He goes for the far corner, the right way to go, beyond Schmeichel, who was beaten, by the way. And he's very, very unlucky, the Algerian, scoring against his old side.
Yeah, it hasn't quite happened for Mahrez today. He had that shot in the first half where he was denied by Schmeichel, where he could have done better, and he's just had that one where he definitely should have done better. But Ferran Torres gets 12 minutes or so to see if he can add to his goal tally this season. But, we're talking about City, and another thing is they've got goals from all over the pitch. I mean, Mendy popping up before. They get goals from, I think Diaz has got 1 this season. Stones has 4, and he's not even playing. So there's just goals from all over the pitch in this Manchester City side. It's not like they rely on 1 or 2 players. Everyone can score goals.
No, absolutely not. I mean, obviously a few years ago, they would have been relying on Aguero to get the goals. But, it's as you said, they just evenly spread out, don't they? I mean, obviously the rotation that Guardiola has, he does make, a lot of changes sometimes in some of the bigger games. And a lot of the time it works. But, they just pop up with goals, as you said, just all over the place. It is hard to just keep track of, players that score. And there's not going to be many outfielders that play for Man City this season that won't be on the score sheet. You can be sure of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gundogan, who's got 12 goals this season, is on the bench, and it looks like he's probably not even going to be required to come on. So it just shows you what this side's about. But Leicester have a free kick Be interested to see what they can do with it. They clip it over towards the back post. Evans wins the header. Not enough power on it to either reach Vardy running in or trouble Ederson, really. But a decent set-piece routine.
It was a good ball in. It was the right person to look for, Johnny Evans. Big height, isn't he? It's an okay flick on by Johnny Evans. Not really a lot of power on it. I think Vardy potentially might have made the wrong run. He shouldn't have gone diagonal and gone across his right. He should have maybe just stayed central. And if he did stay central, he might have just got a toe to ahead of Ederson there. But, Man City do enough.
This is Tielemans now. He's got some space, but his fellow international teammate gets back at him and wins the ball back. And this is now Mendy into Kevin De Bruyne. He's got the run of Sterling, and Marty reads it well. This is Maddison, who looking to get on the ball and make things happen. Tielemans, 10 minutes plus stoppage time to go now. Fofana. In the grand scheme of things, really, with Leicester still have a comfortable lead to 5th, this defeat doesn't make too much difference for them, and it doesn't really make too much difference for the title race either, because that's finished anyway. So, although obviously they'll be disappointed with the defeat, it doesn't necessarily badly affect their chances of finishing in the top 4, I don't think.
No, absolutely not. I mean, obviously the race for 4th is pretty much sort of down in, you could arguably say 4th, really. I mean, you'd feel like Manchester United have maybe got enough ground on there to probably confirm their place in there.
Oh, Fernandinho and Maddison having a bit of a ding-dong there. Fernandinho has that yellow card's a bit, I mean, he's been brilliant, but he's definitely made enough fouls to being given a yellow card already, and that one is very, very cynical from the Brazilian.
Yeah, it almost feels like, does he really need to make that foul in that position? I mean, James Maddison is literally inside his own half, just receiving the ball, which he's going to give back to his defence. You'd expect a seasoned pro like Fernandinho to sort of think in the back of his mind, I don't need to make the challenge and just be experienced and just sort of let Maddison just play it back, because he's inside his own half.
Yeah, I felt it was kind of, I felt it was kind of more of a mental thing, kind of like saying, like, I'm not going to let you get away with doing what you do, usually putting just some doubt in his mind. That's a loose pass back, but Ederson gets there ahead of Vardy, and Amartey collects the ball for Leicester, and then this is now Evans. Yeah, I mean, we can see at the moment De Bruyne is in that sort of free role, but that'll change around in a bit. This is Perez picking up some nice space, finds Jamie Vardy. Vardy needs some help. Maddison didn't really make a run. Tielemans leaves it for Maddison, who bends it over the bar. Nearly a goal on his return for James Maddison, but didn't quite have the dip to trouble Ederson on that occasion.
Yeah, he knows there's a bit of a frustration now. He knows he probably should have done a little bit better. He just thinks that too much about the bend on it and the width, doesn't he, and the height. And obviously there's not a lot of really power on it. I think he almost, as it gets closer to the goal, it's going to go over the bar, and there's no trouble for Ederson.
Leicester have made their third change. Ndidi coming off for Mendy. The only thought I've got behind that is the fact that Ndidi's only got a yellow card. Don't want him suspended for any games. Probably a sensible decision. With the Maddison shot there before, I mean, we've seen him score some absolutely spectacular goals, haven't we? But just not on that occasion. Here he is once again, James Maddison. Gives the ball away. This is now Jesus. Back into... That's Walker. And this is now Diaz. Game sort of petering out now. City very happy to just have all of this possession. Walker, though, wants to take on a few. Finds De Bruyne, who I thought was going to whip it over towards Ferran Torres. So he slices an interesting ball back to Laporte, who brings it down.
He's only Kevin De Bruyne could slice a pass and still make it reach his own man. That is absolutely genius by De Bruyne. I mean, any other player tries that. That's literally spinning out of play for a throw-in. But because it's the Belgian and he's, as we know, so good, he's just made that look like he meant that. You got it. Yeah, that exactly. Is just testament to his quality.
Exactly. And again, he's just shows some lovely. He's got such a clever brain, quick thinking brain. As you said with that pass to Mahrez before, he knew exactly what he was going to do before he even got the ball. And there's very few players who. And Maddison's been left Well, someone's left another one on him. I think it was Walker that time. Well, you can clearly see what their intention is with James Maddison.
Well, I still think they might be angry from the fact he completely stole the show at the Etihad back in September. That was a real late one by Walker, really left the footing on his ankle. Not enough for a booking, obviously, from Anthony Taylor, because it is, you could say, arguably a genuine attempt to win the ball. But Maddison, to say he's been in the war since he came on, would be a bit of an understatement, I think.
Yeah, they've definitely, that's twice now he's been hacked down quite unceremoniously. This is now Castagna into Ayoze Perez. Oh, lovely feet by Ayoze Perez. Finds Vardy. Vardy into Castagna. Castagna into the box. There's no one there. Well, it's Ricardo Pereira. It's Maddison who makes no contact on the ball at all. And he just passes it pathetically into the arms of Edison. But that was a real chance for James Maddison. What about that skill from Perez to start the move?
Yeah, it's a lovely setup play, isn't it, by Pereira into Maddison. And obviously Perez did that lovely bit of skill to get it to Jamie Vardy. And that is probably the closest Leicester have actually come to a goal. It's exactly the sort of similar chance that Aguero had in the first half. I don't think Maddison believes he's got that much time. He just thinks maybe in the back of his mind, he's got a man, right on his backside, and he just rushes the shot. And as you said, it was a real sort of pathetic, tame attempt, which Edison just barely even moves the muscle to save. But you've got to think Maddison in that position, central out, you'd expect him to at least force Edison to sort of push it out for a corner or even score, wouldn't you? But on that occasion, he didn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good chance to score. I mean, I don't know what it looked like on XG, but it looks like he's got time, he's got space, he's got the whole goal to aim at, and in the end, he just sort of passes it to Edison. Well, time's running out for Leicester. Was that the chance to get them back in the game? This is now Mendy. We were talking about Leicester's recruitment. I think he's probably one of the ones who you could say has been a bit of a miss, because he came in to replace Kante, and it just hasn't happened for him, really. But I mean, then again, it's quite almost impossible to replace that Kante of that 2015-16 season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was an absolute machine for Leicester City. I mean, obviously, Mahrez rightly gets the praise, doesn't he? As I think Mendy goes in the book now.
Marty there getting the yellow card, I think.
Oh, sorry, Daniel Amati. Yeah. Sorry, obviously he left one late on De Bruyne. But going back to Mendy, when you come in and replace Kante, it's such a hard thing to do. Just sort of laugh and see the replay of De Bruyne getting knocked into the head down. I think he's got a bit of that.
Tensions are freeing a bit now, aren't they? I mean, it's a bit of a swipe from Amati on the back of De Bruyne's head. I think a yellow card's the right call, but well, I think VAR might be looking at it just by the fact that we haven't got underway yet.
It's an empty stadium can really pay dividends for a player that gets fouled. It's the screaming, isn't it? I think that it's starting to really irritate the opposition players, isn't it? We saw a fine example of that from Kevin De Bruyne.
And on comes 20-year-old Phil Foden, who is one of my favourite players at the moment to watch. Everything he does is so direct and positive, and he's just looking to score. He's looking to create every single time. And the fact he's only 20, it's actually terrifying how good he could become.
Yeah, absolutely. What a player he is. I think with Foden, he's almost that player. You put him out on the right, he's going to go through the middle. He's just so good on the ball at his feet, just goes past players as if they're not even there. He is almost like playing, a game of football, like he's playing with his mates. He's just so calm. And for a 20-year-old, he just looks like he's got the lot, doesn't he? And you don't often say that about an English player in this day and age.
Definitely. I mean, that was a wise decision by Guardiola to take De Bruyne off there, because De Bruyne's temper was frayed, to say the least. He looked very, very frustrated going off. Obviously, with that Amati incident. So clever management by Guardiola. And on comes Foden. He might get the ball here. He doesn't. In the end, it comes back towards Schmeichel, who dinks one into Castagna. This is now Wesley Fofana. Shows some good feet. Back to Castagna. Time running out here for Leicester. It's going to be very hard to see them getting anything from this game at this moment as it stands. As I said earlier on, City moves 17 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. After a pretty iffy start from them, they've been just incredible, really, and they've blown away everyone. Liverpool, fair enough, have definitely not been the force they were last season, but I'm not even sure the way City are playing that Liverpool would have been able to challenge them, to be honest. That is a yellow card for Rodri. I mean, free kick.
He just simply goes into the back of Youri Tielemans there. It's actually sort of a leg that sort of just went and collided with sort of Tielemans. It is seen as a cynical foul, even though probably Rodri doesn't know too much about it, I think. But I think Anthony Taylor was right to issue a yellow card there.
Yeah, he's got Anthony Taylor's got the yellow cards out, hasn't he, in the sort of second half as the game started coming to the end. He started to dish them out. This is Maddison and Tielemans over it. It's a good position to get a good ball in. It's a very, very high line. Gets the ball right here. Maddison clips it in. Might drop for Blue Shirt. Doesn't. Drops for Walker, who boots it away. Mendy just not going to get there, I don't think. And, well, we're going to say much at a time. We've got 3 minutes at a time here at the King Power Stadium. Schmeichel now just smashing it forward. Fofana staying, well, he was in an offside position. He was staying forward. Offside. And more gives Manchester City more time to kill.
Yeah, I think City in particular this season, Manchester City, that is, you don't see them these days sort of just try and go for as many goals as they can. It's just a case of just managing it and just, not overdoing it. And I think that has been a real secret as well, as much as anything else. Hence why they've had a lot of clean sheets, because they were, for me, probably given a little bit too many goals away in the last sort of 10 minutes of games. But this season, they've just sort of thought, we don't need to go and get as many goals. The job's done. Let's just hold on to what we got and just preserve our, clean sheet record, which is absolutely phenomenal in all competitions.
Yeah, their clean sheet record this season's been, just insane. They still score a lot of goals, but as you said, they're not. I don't think they get their two, they get two, and then they're like, okay, well, we're quite happy with that. We know that's probably enough to win the game. This is Evans trying to find Maddison. Maddison can't link up with Vardy. Laporte into Mendy. Time running out. City continue to roll on. Leicester, as I said, don't think it's going to affect their top 4 chances too much. They'll just have to bounce back in the next game.
Yeah, that's exactly it for Leicester. They've just got to just bounce back from this. They have played the best side in the Premier League, and you could arguably say probably one of the best sides in Europe. I mean, this looks a Manchester City side that is just relentless. You'd have to say they're going to retain the League Cup. This could probably be the FA Cup final, of course, with both those sides involved in it in, sort of 2 weeks' time. But, for Leicester, you just got to take your medicine. You just got to move on and just hopefully turn it around in their next game.
Yeah, Perez there, just losing the ball and in the end, fouling Rodri. Referee decided to take no further action. Less than 30 seconds to go, just about 30 seconds to go in. Now, loads of niggly fouls coming in. Clearly, frustration starting to take over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that has been the case for Leicester. As soon as the second went in from Gabriel Jesus, a sort of quarter of an hour of the game to go, it's just creeped in for Leicester, isn't it? You don't really want to be on the pitch when you're 2-0 down, and you just don't want the ball to be in play. You just want to just make as many fouls as you can. Just let your aggression out, if you like.
Mendy tries to play the ball through for Sterling, runs through to Schmeichel, and I think that will probably be that. Schmeichel smashes it forward, Vardy underneath it, headed away, and there goes the full-time whistle at the King Power Stadium, and it is Leicester City 0, the relentless machine that is Manchester City 2. They just can't stop winning at the moment. It is 26 wins out of 27 games in all competitions. Leicester had a game plan. It worked for a bit until Benjamin Mendy showed striker-like instincts to open the score and brought the ball down well, chopped inside, bent it in for his second league goal of the season. And then the game was wrapped up after a beautiful move involving Kevin De Bruyne, Gabriel Jesus, ended up with a Brazilian tapping in from about 6 yards out. And after that, well, Leicester had a good chance through James Maddison, who hit a shot straight at Ederson when he probably should have done better. But it's a deserved win for Manchester City, and they just keep going. Leicester lick their wounds and go again. The final score at the King Power Stadium is Leicester City 0, Manchester City 2.
Thank you very much there, Jack Cunningham, for excellent commentary alongside Matt Iles as well. So thank you to you as well, Matt. And Matt, we're going to come to you now. And Matt, with you being the finaliser today, Who was your man of the match, sponsored by Commentary Services?
Well, I think obviously he's probably, I mean, he still probably didn't have his best game for Manchester City, but Kevin De Bruyne was still man of the match for me. I mean, he was still effortless, wasn't he, in terms of how he played. I would have given it to Fernandinho, but I think he got a very cheap booking for me in fouling Maddison, and I think really it was one of those he shouldn't have had. He had a very good game, but De Bruyne, I think he's just someone who's always going to stand out. He can make one pass in a game that just, it might even lead to a missed chance like it did with Mahrez in that one-on-one in which he's just almost opened himself up too much to try and beat Kasper Schmeichel. He played that back pass through, and it's almost, a bit stolen the headlines, if you like, of the game for me. But he's a player, every time you watch him, you just are in awe of him. He's an unbelievable player, and that's why he was man of the match today. Probably a lot of people watching this will be thinking, you could have given it to someone else, but he just links everything up. He just makes killer passes, and he's just a phenomenal player, and I think he was fully deserving of his man of the match today, even though probably by his own admissions, he wasn't as great as what he can be.
Yes, thank you very much there, Matt. Some fantastic coverage from you. Today will be even a bit more from Matt over the next few weeks as the season progresses. So we've got some more great football coming up for you. In a few moments' time, we've got Arsenal against Liverpool, which will round out today's Premier League action. The other score, which was playing at the same time, is Osasuna 0, Getafe 0 into the 92nd minute. And coming up towards the end of the match in the German Bundesliga, it is still Leipzig 0, Bayern Munich 1, and they've played a minute and 30 seconds into the 3 added minutes of Bayern Munich, hanging on to that slender lead going into the closing stages of that game. And we're going to fetch in Jack Cunningham now. And Jack, you heard Matt there give his man of the match to Kevin De Bruyne, as he says across the bottom of the screen for people just joining him. Kevin De Bruyne, man of the match in a 2-0 win for Manchester City. Wasn't on the score sheet today, but he had a good performance. Would you agree with Matt's assessment on that? Kevin De Bruyne was man of the match today for you?
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic, I think. And just the way he sees the game is beyond almost any player around at the moment. I mean, he doesn't get the assist for that second goal, but that second goal does not happen if he does not play that pass, because it's an eye of a needle pass. He threads it through two players who are diving in, and then obviously Jesus and Sterling complete the job. But that goal doesn't happen without him, and that was the killer goal. So for that reason, I would say De Bruyne was man of the match. I agree with Matt. It was a good choice for man of the match.
Yes, just coming up towards the end of the match then, Goretzka's goal on 38 minutes looks like to have won the game for Bayern Munich against Leipzig. Just final 10 seconds or so left in that game. According to the people who are behind the scenes, feeding me information through from that game. Osasuna and Getafe have drawn 0-0 in La Liga, Spanish Copa del Rey, kicking off at half past day this evening. Athletic Bilbao taking on Real Sociedad. We'll give you updates during the coverage of Arsenal against Liverpool for that one. But from now, from me, we'll just stay. As the full time whistle's just gone in the Leipzig game, Leipzig have lost by a goal to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich going very, very well in the German Bundesliga this season, and another victory to their name in the Bundesliga. And I think Bayern Munich will look to be securing that title very, very soon. 10 points clear of Wolfsburg, and who are just 3 behind Leipzig as well. So Leipzig in second, lost out to Bayern Munich in the German Bundesliga. That game has come to an end. Man City top on 74 points, 14 points clear at the top of the table of a Manchester United. Leicester remain 5 points above Chelsea, who were hammered earlier today. Let's just say Chelsea 5-2 by West Bromwich Albion, who were battling to fight the drop, and with Sam Allardyce's side there. Some more great commentary coming up here on Football Commentary Live. Make sure you stick around for that one. On the way in When about 20 minutes or so time, come and join myself, Mike Orneman, and Matt Iles once again for coverage of Liverpool against Arsenal. Until then, see you again in around about 20 minutes or so time. But until then, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.